All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 20th ANC 3F meeting. We have a quorum. All 7 commissioners are present. First time in a while. I'm Adam Tope, the chair of the ANC, and we can just introduce ourselves, start with Pat.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Pat Chikopchik, 3F07.
Andrew Mola, 3F05.
Sally Gresham, ANC 3F04.
Shirley Adelstein, 3F2.
Maliki Nugent, 3F06.
Mary Beth Ray, 3F3.
Alrighty, so we have an agenda which is slightly different than what was circulated online and in the current. So what's different from that is we're adding a quick election of a vice chair. We're adding an authorization for a commissioner to speak at the Exelon hearing. And we have a thing about our soapstone committee. And also we have a resolution. DDOT wants to build a contraflow bike lane on 39th Street between Van Ness and Albemarle. So it's like a bike lane that goes the other direction. So, because it's one way. So I added that at the end. So is there anything to delete or change other than that?
Right there.
Under miscellaneous, we're not approving the quarterly financial report. We're approving the FY16
That's not
budget.
it. Oh, Adam, sorry, the whole thing of the Fessenden, the sidewalks at Fessenden and Broad Branch and the whole business, the whole sidewalk thing, the group is here tonight.
No,
with
it's
the-
here. It's under sidewalk.
That's not,
Is that not it?
that's
That's
what's
not
30,
it?
that's not it.
Is that yours, Mary Beth?
3240
3240
Fessenden, I don't know what that is.
Oh, is that needed? Do we need-
3240.
Do we need that tonight?
Are they here tonight?
Here, it's this, right?
Kaz Construction? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
it.
so then we'll do the sidewalk after 3240.
Fessenden sidewalk is that?
Yeah, so I'll add that in. Sorry.
That's the
Do you
resolution
have-
that I just sent out.
Yes.
Andrea, did you send out, did you bring printed copies of that?
No.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize that was different. Okay, is there anyone else have anything? All right, so I'll make a motion to approve this agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So first thing we'll do real quick, I'll make a motion to make Sally Gresham the vice chair.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Does she know?
She knows. All right, good, congrats.
Abstain? Decline?
That's fine, that's fine. All right, okay. So next, open forum. So if you have something to talk about.
Can we get commissioners to go first, please?
Why is it not?
Okay, fine.
Doesn't matter. So if you have something to talk about that's not on the agenda, you can come up to our microphone and talk about whatever you want. Okay.
That's simple.
Easy. So commissioner announcements. Start with Pat. Work our way down.
I have one. Let me just pull it up. It is in regards to an event occurring this Sunday, October 25th. The Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia is going to be having an event from 1:30 to 7:30 p.m. They're expecting upwards of 1,200 guests. So parking, traffic along Tilden this Sunday might be a little more congested and take a little bit longer than normal. Just please be advised, they've sent out apologies in advance, but take this into your schedules on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm going to just give a very quick update to the whole Exelon Pepco. The mayor's office, together with 1 or 2 other of the parties to the case, reached a settlement agreement, and they've submitted the PSC, of course, rejected it. The mayor reached a settlement with Exelon and Pepco. They've submitted it to the Public Services Commission for their review yet once again. They're trying to make an expedited proceeding this time around, which means that they want to cut out the public hearings and just have the hearings of the parties. And the Consumer Utility Board is trying to get them to not do this. They're trying to get the PSC at least to have a full set of hearings. So that's it.
I have 5. First, Park Van Ness construction project update. They continue with the exterior work, facade, brick, windows, site demolition. They're still demolishing some things, which is pretty amazing 2 years later. Continued installation of new public space elements, subgrade, waterproofing. They're getting ready to get that sidewalk in, so this is good. I need to tell everybody there'll be an alert this coming weekend. Pepco will be on site working on Saturday and Sunday. They will be working in the sidewalk area, public sidewalk area, and on the street. So just be aware of that, and there may be closed at night. The tower crane, I don't know if you all noticed, was dismantled on October 10th, so we have no more crane. And the sidewalk will be continued to be closed until December, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, because we have the West Station is going to open Metro in a week.
It is open.
It is open now? Okay, good. I haven't been there, so great. So that's good news. Forest Hills Park update. There was a fire at the front. They have their annual Halloween party coming up Sunday, October 25th. It's a great event. They have lots of cool toys and crafts and bake sale, and they have Abracadabra Alex, who performed a couple of years ago, coming back, and a parade. So put on those costumes and see you there. Murch Elementary School renovation, DCPS and DGS continue to move forward on the design development phase with their consultants. The SIT team was notified that an RFS request for space for swing space was submitted by owners of Intelsat, which is very good news for us. No other locations suggested and contacted by the ANC, such as UDC, Fannie Mae, Capital Moral Church, or Howard University, submitted requests for space. So hopefully Murch will be moving to Intelsat. Final word from DGS on the swing space location will be before the end of the year. The request for proposal for design build contractors have been received. We do not know the number, and they did not tell us when the final selection will be made. At last week's meeting, they presented the conceptual landscape design for the playground in the front of the building by DGS and the landscape architect. Right now, there are a lot of comments being done by the SIT team. The fourth thing I wanted to report is the Music Man in Forest Hills Park. I know some of you know about the young man that is hanging out at the park after hours and playing his music very loudly. He's disrupting the neighborhood. The neighbors have come to me because it's the park, and also because I know some of the neighbors. It's partly in Mary Beth's ANC and my ANC where this is occurring. I have reached out to DPR and asked for large signs to be placed, which was done yesterday, that says the park is closed at dark, which is very important because now MPD will be able to approach the young man and bar him from the playground upon darkness if he's playing his music loudly. Sometimes we don't get what we wish for, but sometimes we do. Let's see, Commander Gresham and Lieutenant Duran were not able to attend tonight to address more in detail what's going on, but they will talk to us by email, and Sergeant Johnson is here tonight to address any of our concerns with that. On the tail of that, there is an MPD 2nd District Community Police meeting next week, hosted by the Citizens Advisory Council on Wednesday the 28th at 7 p.m. in the community room on Idaho Avenue. They will provide a rundown of recent crime stats, outline steps being taken to address recent citywide increases in crime. This is a very good time for members of our community to go to this meeting and address things that are going on in our area, such as the Music Man and anything possibly in your ANC. And I have some other issues that are happening. There is a gentleman you can contact, Brian Turnmall. His number is 703-459-0238. You can call him and he will give you more information.
Thank you, Sally. I would certainly, as Sally mentioned, encourage anyone who's interested to attend that meeting. I know many of you in my district have been communicating with me about concerns related to recent robberies and other events. I deeply regret that I am not able to be at that meeting, but I'm happy to provide you with information about it, and I will post that information on my website. I'd also like to remind residents of 3F2, which is Van Ness North, East, and South, that we'll be having our 3F2 community meeting this month, next week on the 27th. That's at 7:30 p.m. in the Van Ness East social room. Also, that is on my website. Thank you.
What's the date?
The 27th?
I have one quick announcement. I have exciting news. 2.5 years ago, we filed a complaint against UDC for not following their campus plan zoning order, and they finally decided today that they agreed with us. So UDC gets 60 days to comply, or we'll probably get fined. There you go.
What was the issue?
About 1,000 different issues.
A lot of
A
different.
lot of issues.
We have 60 days to
2.5 years.
to
Sounds,
reply.
No. They have 60 days to fix it.
Oh, fix it.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool. Good job,
This
Adam.
is good news for folks in my district who live at 3003 Van Ness. For those of you who are not familiar with the issue, ANC 3F filed a complaint a couple of years ago asserting that there were violations of a zoning agreement that UDC had related to a master lease at 3003 Van Ness. So that has been now decided favorably for us. So thank you to those of you who have worked on this issue.
Okay, just three quick ones. In case folks are not aware, there is a regulation in the DC that says that grass cannot be higher than 10 inches, and you can receive a fine for up to $500 plus a bill from the DC government if they have to come and mow it. So, and also suspected housing violations can be reported to, there's a specific email address, dcra.housingcomplaints@dc.gov. And that covers things inside the apartment, so safety, cleanliness, electrical, plumbing, heat, and outside. Cleanliness, foundation issues, porches, roof, stairs, trash, walkways. So if there are any vacant lots or properties in the area that are not being maintained safely or to health standards, there is this website that you can use, an email address that you can use to report it to the city, and the city can then take action.
What was that again? Sorry.
dcra.housingcomplaints@dc.gov.
Thanks.
I think you can use 311 also.
I'm sure that's true too. I wanted to call attention to a recent article by Barbara Klein, who lives in our ANC, in the Forest Hills Connection, about the reduced annual rent increases available to seniors in the area. You can shave up to 2% off of the annual rent increase if you live in a rent-controlled building, of which there are at least 3 in our ANC. And that adds up over time. She wrote an article showing how you can go ahead and get this 2% off of the annual increase. You're eligible if you live in a rent-controlled unit in a building built before 1976. And as I said, there are 3 that I know of: Connecticut House, Clarence House, and the Frontenac. If you're 62 or older or disabled and don't receive DC or federal rent assistance. So if any of that applies to anybody and you're interested, go ahead and look on the Forest Hills Connection. October 8th was the article. I also printed a couple copies, and they're out on the table outside there. And then finally, I'm pleased to announce that after about a year and a half, DDOT has started work repairing the alley between Appleton and Brandywine, the 3500 block. They have put it on their FY16 work plan to repair and resurface the whole alley. They won't get to it until later in FY16, so in the meantime, they're going to patch and repair the major potholes. So I'm very pleased to hear that. That was not part of the mayor's Alley-Palooza campaign, but we're glad to see that that the mayor's office is still pushing these things forward. That's all.
I have 5 announcements. The first is that Van Ness Main Streets filed its application for Main Streets designation on October 2nd. And we should hear back from the Department of Small and Local Business Development on November 16th as to whether our application is successful. We want to thank Councilmember Che's office for proposing the legislation that created this opportunity for us. We're putting together a job description for an executive director. If anybody's interested in that position, we will start advertising the day after we find out that hopefully that we got the grant. And we're also working with Commissioner Adam Tope to file our 501c3 application and other required documents. The second announcement is that the 27th Street Bridge construction is complete and the bridge is open. Has anybody driven on it? It's very shiny and new. The third announcement is that the Broad Branch Road rehabilitation between Linian and Beach Drive. Basically, there's no big news, but Paul Hoffman with DDOT reports that they should select a preferred alternative this month. The environmental assessment will be completed, and then the next public meeting will be held in the summer of 2016. Next comes the design and construction phase, which will probably not begin for another 2 years, and there's no completion date in sight. If anybody needs a website with background, let me know and I'll be happy to provide you with that. The fourth announcement is the commission passed resolutions honoring Karen Perry and Tom Whitley, 2 former commissioners, and so we've put together those resolutions to present to their families. So thanks everybody for your support on that. And finally, I submitted testimony at the Department of Transportation hearing last, I guess it was the week of October 2nd, on trees. And if anybody would like a copy of that testimony, please let me know.
Great, thank you. So next up, we'll do a quick. Yep. No, they just do the camera, but we'll talk louder. Yeah, you got it. So next we'll do the police report. So the officers would like to come on up and introduce themselves. That's good. If you can sort of talk into the microphone so it picks you up.
I speak pretty loud.
I know.
Good morning. My name's Steve Franchek. Y'all might see me. Well, I got up long before most of you all today, to the tune of about 3:45 this morning. Okay. So we're still going good. But this is Sergeant Johnson, me and him. This is our PSA. I'm Lieutenant Morrell. I'm sorry, Morrell. Yeah. You all have questions about crime? We can gladly answer all of them, to include Music Man. One thing I can tell you, crime in PSA 203, which is where you're at now, and where most of you all live, is down 54% from this time last year. We still have a little bit of problems with theft from autos. A lot of the theft from autos, from what I've seen, because on day work we end up taking a lot of the reports, is people being complacent, one might say, and leaving their purse, iPads, computers sitting on the seat when they walk away from their car. A lot of them are mainly down in the lower end of the PSA, down by Porter Street and down up 3400 block of Connecticut, up around the 3800 block, 3700 block, right in front of the high rise. So if we can continue to lock our doors and take our valuables out of the car, with winter coming, don't leave your big nice winter coats in the car because someone else might need it or think they need it more than you. So if y'all could please keep doing that, we'll get our crime down a little bit more. Music Man, as many of y'all might want to know about. It's a touchy situation as far as us. We have to have the park ranger there to bar 'em. Getting a park ranger out there in the evening time is a little difficult. But the one thing we got to understand, if we can get him to at least tone his music down a little bit, it might be a happy median for all. Because even though I don't work in the evening time a lot, the little bit I have been over, and from what I've heard from the other PSA officers, if we start barring him, then we're going to bar everybody. So people that are out there with their kids at dusk, then it turns dark and they're still there, but they're there under the light, which is good for everybody. There too come under the same thing. You can't have what's good for one is good for all in this case, and that's going to be his complaint. So as far as that goes, we're doing that. Traffic-wise, some of you all have seen me. In the morning time since school started, I've been up here on Precedent and 36 a lot in the morning time, trying to get the people to leave the crosswalks alone and let the kids cross. It's working out pretty good. Some people have met me in other ways, maybe not so nice, but it seems to be making some kind of difference, because even when I'm not there, I hear it's still not too bad. But other than that, through the day, I've just been going back through the neighborhood, hitting the stop signs, trying to get the commuters to slow down a bit. If you all have a particular complaint, please tell me. I'll be more than happy to go take a look at it. Does anyone have any other questions? Shoot.
Well, you want to go first?
No, you can go ahead.
Music Man.
Yes.
You just said something that no one has said.
Mhm.
You said that you had to have the DPR park ranger there.
The police department, we don't bar off the park territory. We'll come and help you.
That is not what we have understood from Lieutenant
That's what
Duran.
I've understood. If I'm wrong, I'll gladly take another look at it.
Okay, we need to have that looked at, because that is not what Commander Gresham or Lieutenant Durans have said. They've said that the officers can ask him to please leave the park.
Now, we can
after
ask
dark.
him to leave, but I'm talking barring. And barring him is making it so that he can't come on the park property day or night.
He'll be subject to arrest if we bar him.
After he's barred one time, if he comes back, then he's subject to arrest.
Okay, we need to be very clear on that, because that is not what has been said to the
Now, we can
neighbors.
come and ask him at nighttime to leave,
Right,
and we can enforce the sign that's now posted. That's not an issue.
yes, and everybody.
But people, from what I've seen in the emails, people are like to use bar, and I saw barring. And to bar a person, we have to have a representative from the person that has control over that property, and that would be the Park Service, to my understanding.
Okay, I thought the word came from Lieutenant Duran.
Okay.
So that's what needs to be.
And we'll talk
clarified.
to him again.
Yeah, okay.
But that's accurate.
Because it is hard, I know we're in a rock and a hard place here.
Yes.
Because to ask one person to leave after dark means you gotta tell everybody to leave.
And that includes the dog walkers.
Yes, so that's what I meant by, sometimes it's not good for what you wish for.
Yes.
Um,
I prefer, we're working on a different angle with him. Hopefully by next month, we'll have a little better control.
Okay, well,
So give
anything
it-
you all
give a
can
little-
do, because the neighbors are definitely
Okay.
starting to get extremely anxious.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I do. I am especially concerned about a recent robbery that occurred around the giant grocery store it's in the Van Ness area. So that's the area along VZ Terrace by
Yes.
Connecticut. So just last week, a resident of the Van Ness North building was the victim of, I guess you would call it a robbery. And what I'm concerned about in particular is that the incident followed an extremely similar pattern to one that occurred almost exactly a month before in the actual garage. In my communications with Commander Gresham in the last couple of days, I learned that that first investigation was suspended. I'm very concerned about that since we seem to have a serial perpetrator. Could you please talk about whether you've identified a link between these events and what your next steps are in terms of addressing that?
As far as that goes, I'm not familiar with the robbery, and I'll be completely honest. If it's suspended, the only person that suspends the case is a detective. So what happens is the officer comes and takes a report, does the area canvass, and interviews the complainant. Passes the report along, the detective comes out and re-interviews him. And without being there for the interview, I can't tell you why the robbery or the report was suspended one way or the other. It's something we can try to look into or try to figure out the CCN numbers, and then we can pull the report up and ask the detective. Other than that, I'm not sure why it would have been suspended.
Well, I appreciate that because my concern is that there seems to be a link between these two events. The way it occurred was similar in both cases, targeting vulnerable members of our community, one with a walker, one with a cane, and that's really concerning to me. So I would appreciate follow-up. I'd like to make sure that if there's a connection between these things, MPD is making that connection and following up appropriately. So I would appreciate follow-up on that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We have a long-standing problem with trucks on Van Ness between Reno Road and Wisconsin Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember a freezing cold day in January when Adam Tope and I and another resident from the Van Ness VZ Street Residents Association stood out there in the cold and talked about the problem.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's been 10 months, and I wonder if we could get a report, in a follow-up fashion on how
We
many
hit it myself and also
tickets have been issued and when you have.
myself and Officer Santos went out there and we did Van Ness for a long time
Right.
and got them corrected. It was slow, so we had many complaints, not just that one. So we've addressed others. I've been back there and watched it. The traffic's picked up some, so I'm gonna get her to give me a hand and go back out there again.
If you go between 6 and 7 in the morning,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
are heavy trucks.
Okay.
Reporting monstrous trucks hauling something or another for a construction project going through a Chilton House.
Okay. I'll gladly look. 6 and 7 isn't a problem. We start that early anyway.
You can catch a truck anytime, but
Pretty much.
6 and 7 in particular, we appreciate it, and I know you think you've got it, but it's kind of like the hand over the water balloon, it keeps coming back.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And could you get back to Adam with information about how many tickets have been issued?
Yes. I'll go back through and see if she still has a count.
So, sorry, can you just, what's the issue here? The trucks?
Big trucks on Van Ness Street between Wisconsin and Reno Road.
No
Truck traffic.
There's no trucks allowed.
It's a no trucks allowed.
Heavy construction trucks, and a lot of trucks, a lot of very big trucks.
Is it going to UDC?
No.
No, it's
No.
just delivery.
It's going to that other school. The main truck went to the school behind Sidwell Ferns that's doing all that construction back there.
Hearst?
It's the school behind Sidwell.
Yeah.
Hearst,
Yeah,
Right.
that's just like delivery trucks, like
like construction?
No,
just like
construction
people
trucks.
going to Whole Foods in Town will
I
cut through and
live
things like that.
in the house between Sidwell and Hearst, and so I'm very familiar
Yeah.
with the cars that go between those two
Yeah.
places.
We had to adjust our spots a couple of times because they were turning down streets when they would see us. So we had to keep adjusting up to catch them so they wouldn't cut through other neighborhoods. Yes, ma'am.
I want to thank you so much for helping with the crosswalk, particularly at the BP, during the walk to school hours. I walked 3 kids to school in the morning to 2 different places. One down Lincoln from Fessenden to Broad Branch, and 2 up Fessenden from 32nd across to March. And but by the time I have hit 8:30, it's been harrowing. I've been probably close to being hit several times. My daughter walking alone the other day was almost hit crossing Linnean. The crosswalks, the lack of sidewalks in that area, the speeding up from the park with the lack of stop signs, and I know how much you've tried to help me, but I don't know if we can get some help from the ANC on this. It is really with the way that people are racing through to get transportation over there gets harder, and we're encouraging kids to walk to school. And it's dangerous, I can't let my kids walk alone. So I now.
What specific blocks,
Yeah,
what specific
where-
blocks are you talking about?
Well, I walk, we have two routes, one down Fessenden to down Linnean.
So that's one of the things we're talking about
Yeah, I
tonight.
know, but I just want to talk about, I want you to get to I wanted to talk to Officer Franchuk with it because he also has been so helpful in terms of traffic calming as well as a sidewalk issue there.
So are they coming up from Davenport?
So
Where are the cars
they're
coming from?
Coming up Linnean from Brandywine from Davenport. They're coming up across 32nd, up Linnean.
So they're
From
backtracking.
Broad Branch to go across Fessenden,
Yeah.
where they block that crosswalk. And, but, you know, up Linnean is really scary because again, there's a sidewalk that stops mid-block there, as well as the sidewalk that stops mid-block in Fessenden, which I know you're gonna get to, but I think it's a two-pronged issue, both the sidewalks and traffic.
So have you discussed getting sidewalks in these
I think
areas?
we have our neighbors.
All the
that
neighbors
have-
that you're walking, because we've had some problems in the past where people don't want sidewalks.
Well,
and-
they just put in a sidewalk on, I think it's Broad Branch Terrace at Linnean, where none of the neighbors wanted it,
Yeah.
and it's a not heavily walked block. And meanwhile, you've got a block of Fessenden with half a sidewalk that dumps you out into the middle of a very busy intersection.
That specifically is
the
part of
only
this,
thing- I know,
is part of
but
this
she's asked-
resolution,
she asked me a
and
specific question about that before.
and
Well,
there's
not
a
that
petition.
particular one, I'm asking, because I know they're doing that one right now, but we've had a lot of trouble in our ANC, especially Mary Beth and mine, where people we need sidewalks. And so we put one at 32nd between Davenport and Ellicott.
Right, yeah.
That we finally got through,
We're
that
so
took
happy
almost an
about
act of
that.
God.
On the next block, we're
yeah,
fine. We got
right.
all our guys
So
fighting.
yay, we got one,
You know,
but then
there's
across
a
the
lot.
street, the people refused to have a sidewalk put in. So, I mean, part of it is you're working
But my
against,
understanding is there's now an ordinance that insists that in a residential neighborhood, you have to have a sidewalk on one side. Is that not correct?
Yeah,
yes,
that's
that is
right.
correct. And
With-
that's
with-
why they're doing some of
Right,
the
with or
streets on
without
one side.
People who agree.
Right, but it has to go through the process.
Right. But I guess I think also that there's a traffic calming issue that I think needs to go along with it. And, I mean, right, it's been crazy up there by that crosswalk, right?
You can
Interesting where
get,
they're coming from.
you can solve a lot of it by getting the no turns like on Garrison. If you can get it to come off of Broad Branch Terrace where they can't turn up 36th Street during like 7 to 9:30. And that would eliminate a lot of the problems that she's having. And if you get out on 2D towards the other side of the district, out towards Western Avenue, you go block to block and 7 to 9:30, people can't turn down 42nd or
Can you
anything else.
say this again?
Well, wait a minute, that's the one that Manoli went for.
Yeah.
Yes.
We put that in a resolution, and they denied it. DDOT denied it.
That's the only way, because if you stop 32nd Street and you get that sign down there, then they're just gonna back up to Davenport and Brandywine
Right,
and
that's
make
the
it
problem. They
worse.
just keep moving over.
Yeah,
But
that's why.
it's something the neighborhood and maybe you all with some help can get together and force them to do it, because it's y'all's neighborhood and they work for you evidently
And
at the end of the
to-
day.
You're suggesting to get the no-turn sign on which street?
On Garrison.
It's Garrison.
No, Garrison already has it.
It's 32nd, though.
36th, so 36th is what they're cutting up, that's causing her the problem crossing over.
36?
36?
That's across,
And 32nd.
wait a minute, that's on the west side of Connecticut, 36.
Behind the BP.
Oh, where it comes up and
It's-
connects.
So that's
Weird.
where he puts posts in the morning, which is
Yeah.
unbelievable and it's very helpful when you're there.
And that's a problem street because it's part of it is the Park Service.
Well, no, but but there's
No,
already.
but Broad Branch Road down there is all DC, and the Park Service is very clear on that. Because whenever we have an accident down there, they will not send park police. They will send us, and that is
But
it.
36, I think, is,
The park is on the side, but the street is DC. It's not park.
okay.
There is a
They-
part there.
They say they can't do sidewalks because of
you're-
the right of way.
I'm looking for the sign, not the sidewalk.
The sign on 32nd down near Nevada, that they can't turn, 36, that they can't turn up 36 from Nevada?
Right.
That's an interesting.
Yeah,
Look
it's that-
at the, if you want a sign to look at the sign down Garrison
right.
Street, off 36.
That
It's a
one.
very, it's cut a lot of traffic out.
So, but we'd have to probably
this is
get,
36.
we'd have to probably
It's
get
right- it's in
4
here.
no left turn
Yeah.
signs in that area.
Yep.
Right, we need them all.
Yeah, we need them all.
Because if you can't get them all, doing one's just gonna hurt the rest.
Okay, I see where they're coming from. They're coming across Military and trying to come.
Okay.
And the other
You want
sign,
to-
the other sign that you also need to get is a stop sign down by her house. And where 32nd comes across, and actually cuts across through a traffic lane that has the right of way. And it's a matter
Well,
of
that's
time.
that
before
3-point.
And it's
that's-
only a
stop.
matter of time before someone gets hit there.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's, you need the stop sign on 32nd Street as they come down the hill.
Mhm.
And that'll eliminate that. Why they haven't put it there, I'm not sure.
Well, just so you know, they have to do a study.
A survey.
Well, it's a count. They put boxes and they do an assessment. And we have been denied 4 stop signs in our ANC over the last 2 years.
I think some of it is, from their point of view, is who you get to survey it.
Well, it has to come from TOA.
I got you. I think it's in their.
You mean the
their
person?
point- Yes.
Okay.
The
I'll talk to you later.
particular person.
All right.
But if the next time you can arrange a survey and you have a meeting with them, please call me and I will come and help you.
Okay.
Because
Sounds good.
they might need a little extra push. Because that's what they're, I mean, I can sit out there with a box between 8 and 9 and count 100 cars, but when you're talking 24 hours a day, 100 cars isn't much. But it's that one block, which is what's causing the problems. And if they don't understand that that's what it is, then they're not gonna give you what you want. So I think between the neighborhood and a little help from the police department, the next meeting, maybe we can have a little different outcome.
Okay. So I think
Did
we
you
have a
give
ton of
us your
stuff to
name?
do tonight.
That's fine.
If people
If
have
you all are done.
questions, do you mind answering
No.
questions in the hall? If people want to go out there or something?
Yeah.
More than happy, or get in touch
All
with
right,
one of
cool.
these people, and they can forward your question to us, and we'll get back to you.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Good
guys.
enough. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so next I'll make a quick motion to name Andrea as authorized person to speak for the ANC at the Exelon hearings. Is there a second? All in favor?
Hi.
All right. So next,
Courtney, I'm sorry, Courtney, what's your last name? What? I'll deal with that later.
okay, so next up, I'd like to invite our shadow representative, Franklin Garcia, who wants to talk about statehood, if he's here still. Yeah.
Franklin just told me that he had an emergency.
Okay. Sounds good. Then I will chat with him to come to a different meeting, I guess. So next, Cash, would you like to come up? And DC for Democracy is going to talk about small donor financing and make a proposal for us to sign on to, what do you call it, a letter?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. So I
Thank you.
guess tell us what is small donor financing.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Commissioners. My name is Keish Ladua-Hedi. I have lived on Van Ness Street for 26 years. I'm also a member of DC for Democracy, which is an active member of the Small Donor Coalition, which is a coalition that is pressing for public financing of elections here in DC. So why are we doing this? Many of us are doing so because we think that there is a crisis of confidence in government. Many of us feel that big money has too big a role in our government. And for those of you who like statistics, the New York Times and CBS News did a poll earlier this year in June where they found that 85% of the public think that elected officials promote policies that are in the interests of their biggest donors rather than the public at large. And the same number of people also think that our system of funding campaigns is so broken that we have to basically build it from scratch or introduce fundamental changes. So here in DC, we can point to situations like Exelon. Thank you again, ANC 3F, for acting on that. An example where after the PSC ruled against it, the mayor basically undertook to negotiate a backroom deal. We also have the revelations of Fresh PAC, the local super PAC, which, despite its nominal independence of the mayor, is blatantly and very, openly furthering her agenda and looking to reward or oppose council members depending on where they stand vis-a-vis the mayor. So bottom line, a lot of us think that big money is really corrupting our democracy and is a threat to our democracy. And we feel that ANCs, being that level of government that is closest to the people, really should have a say in this. So what can we do? Thanks to the Supreme Court, we can't exactly stop the flow of big money, unfortunately. So what we can do is to give a leg up to ordinary citizens. And basically, we can do that by multiplying our power. And by multiplying our power, we can basically increase the chances of electing candidates to office who will represent the public interest rather than the interests of deep-pocketed donors. And that is what public financing and what we are now calling small donor financing is all about. So there's basically a few principles behind this effort, and that is what this coalition is standing for right now. We have not by any means established any of the details of the legislation. We don't want to, because the whole idea is to build this coalition and to then have that coalition talk with our elected officials in the Wilson building and get this done. But the basic principles are that, first of all, because of the Supreme Court rulings on this, this has to be a voluntary system. So candidates will voluntarily choose to opt into public elections, public financing of elections. And one of the things, there are certain qualifications that you have to meet. One of the qualifications is that you basically say you will not take certain kinds of money. You will not take corporate money. You will not take donations above a certain level. And that's for each jurisdiction to define what those limitations are. The other basic principle is that a candidate has to demonstrate grassroots support. So you have to basically say, I will raise X amount of money from small donors. And that amount varies by office, whether you're talking mayoral or council or ANC. Basically, that to demonstrate that you have a large level of support, and by showing that level of support, you then qualify for public money. The other principle, which is not there in every jurisdiction, by the way, that has adopted public financing, is this idea that a small donation will be matched up to multiple times. And the easiest way to explain this is with an example. So in a lot of systems, you can have a donation up to, say, $100 or $150 matched with public money. In some cases, like in Montgomery County, they have a system where the first $50 is matched 6 times. The next $50 is matched 4 times, and so forth. So you're essentially multiplying the smallest donations more so than higher donations. So again, this idea of basically magnifying the power of ordinary voters. Another basic principle is to limit the total amount of public financing that is available per candidate per office. That way, you set a certain ceiling on how much money has to come out of the public treasury for this. That's an essential element of controlling costs. Other types of limits include the fact that donations can only be matched that are coming from your area. So a DC council member will have donations from DC people matched with public money, but not necessarily contributions from other places. So that's just to give you an idea of the kinds of, the basic sort of principles we're operating under. As far as other jurisdictions that have instituted these systems, you have states, entire states like Arizona, Connecticut, and Maine that have used these systems for a long time and use them for the majority of their statewide elected offices as well as their legislature. So Arizona and Maine have had systems since 2000, Connecticut since 2008. New York City has had a system since 1988, but they have gradually expanded it, and the system that really, and they really have the system that's sort of a model for the country now, and they've had it since 2009. They use a system where contributions up to $150 are matched 6 times. So it really, again, multiplies the power of regular voters. Montgomery County enacted a system just last year, very much modeled on the New York system, but they use that whole tiered system I was telling you about, where the first $50 is matched more than the subsequent ones. So I would say New York City and Montgomery County are sort of the most relevant models for DC. But again, the details are very much up to us as a community to figure out. Now, what are the results of these public financing systems? Again, since we have places like New York City that have done this for a long time, we know, for example, that more people donate under public financing systems. In New York City, over about a 10-year period, the pool of small donors increased 40%. People realize that their small donations actually count for a lot more. We also find that the people who participate in public financing systems draw on a much larger donor base than the people who do not participate. And last but not least, it has also resulted in a greater diversity of candidates. Women, people of minority racial groups, people who do not tend to have access to wealthy donors, are encouraged to run under public financing systems. So, where do we stand? We have about 32 members in the Small Donor Financing Coalition, and on the back of the sign-on letter, you'll see an almost up-to-date list of the folks who are on it. I won't read all of them, but just to give you a flavor of who's supporting it, we have the DC chapter of the Sierra Club, the DC Fair Budget Coalition, Jews United for Justice and the Latino Caucus, DC Vote, DC Working Families Party, and SEIU 32BJ. So a pretty broad range of environmental, housing / budget, unions, and so forth. A lot of folks who are interested in energizing democracy here in DC. So we are also finding some encouragement from within the Wilson building on this. We just had a very good meeting today with Chairman Mendelson, who is very supportive. We have also got a lot of great support from Councilmember Grosso, Silverman, and Nadeau. We're very hopeful about Councilmember McDuffie and Councilmember Che. And we are very, very excited about getting the ANCs to support us. I really hope we can go on record as the first ANC in DC to support this. Our ask tonight is basically for the ANC to sign the letter to council members, which again pretty much just lays out the basic principles of this program. It does not establish any details. We are very well aware that the details have to be negotiated, including, of course, the vital question of where does the funding for this come from. But we hope that you vote to sign the letter and join the coalition.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So there's this letter that gives background of this financing and asks that we help ask the council to enact this. So I'll make a motion to sign on to this letter. I think small donor financing is a good idea. They use it quite successfully in a lot of places, and I'd like to see something like that.
I did just have a few questions.
Yeah.
I know the details have to be worked out, ma'am.
Cash.
We have some questions.
Yeah. So I know you said the details have to be worked out and everything. Do you envision like anywhere specific where these funds might come from? For paying for this, or?
We really don't. In fact, it was in this very room that I spoke with Chairman Mendelson when he appeared at a Ward Street Democrats committee, because we were very concerned about that issue and kind of felt like we needed to figure that out before we even talked about the bill. And he actually told us, don't worry about the money. Don't let the money get in the way. Put the idea out there. We'll work it out. So this is something we are looking into, and we are, by the way, in addition to all the local groups that I mentioned, we are getting quite a bit of help from national organizations like Citizen and US PERG that have the policy expertise, and they in particular, I think, can identify some funding options. But it's one thing that we are concerned about is that we want dedicated funding as opposed to money from the general fund that has to be fought over every year. Because that's one thing Montgomery County is finding. They do not have a dedicated funding source, and as a result, their public financing system is not funded.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, I'm looking at the public opinion data and like just some of the facts at sort of like the federal level. And do we have anything DC specific that we can point to in terms of why small donor financing might be really important for our state specifically?
I would say it's really, I think, face the same issues that the entire nation does. And by the way, there is a small donor financing bill in Congress, both the House and the Senate. Senator Durbin is the champion in the Senate, and of course we know it's not going to go anywhere with Republican control. But that's just my way of saying I think we in this local level have pretty much the same crisis that the entire country is dealing with on the federal level. And you can see it in the presidential campaign. Basically a handful of very deep-pocketed people are funding almost the entire Republican field.
I guess I have a question related to using the public financing, and I'm wondering what changes here other than, how to not use names. The ones that are getting financing from the places that they're getting it from are going to continue to do that.
You need a constitutional amendment to get rid of Citizens United. That's the only way you're going to get rid of it.
That is totally true. We, as long as the Supreme Court equates money with speech.
And it's going to get worse.
And it will. We cannot turn off that spigot. So, absolutely, we're not claiming that this can, eliminate that problem. All we are saying is that this is a way of giving a leg up, giving a fighting chance to people who do not have those resources. And while in many campaigns you can say that money is the determinative factor, we do have examples even in recent elections that show that even people who have a significant financial disadvantage but who still have sufficient resources can get elected.
Are there examples of candidates that have been funded with the small donor in New York or Montgomery or
In New
something
York,
that have been
absolutely.
elected?
There's an excellent report by the Brennan Center that I'd be happy to share with you that quotes from candidates who use the system and
Okay.
so forth. I'll be
Great.
happy to send.
If I could make a comment, I don't know if anybody is familiar with online, and you can donate through Act Blue as for small donor amounts that support candidates all over the country, and you can designate what amount. They even go as low as $2 or $3 that you can donate. I use that Act Blue continuously to support candidates that I want to see make it in office throughout the country, not just locally, but everywhere. And that is a good source now to use for your particular candidate that you want to support that will move your agendas. But again, that's an online, it's a PAC, basically.
Great. So is there any other commissioner questions on it? No. All right, so I'll make a motion to sign on to this letter. Is there a second?
Second that
Second.
motion.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right, so we'll sign on. We're the first ones. All right.
Thank you, Kesh, for your leadership on this important issue and the opportunity for DC to be a leader in helping move the nation.
All right, so next, Hillwood, what was it, last meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, it came asking for the grant of $3,000 for erosion controls. Are there any follow-up questions from commissioners? No? Okay, so I'll just make a motion to approve the grants. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's approved. So if someone from Hillwood's here, they can email Malachy and figure out how to get the grant
How to
money.
get your money.
So we're gonna quickly do the banana leaf settlement. So Malachy, do you want to just talk about it real quick for a minute and make a
Sure.
motion for the agreement?
So Banana Leaf Restaurant is a Sri Lankan restaurant across the street on the 5000 block of Connecticut. They opened about a year ago without a liquor license. They've been operating continuously since then and have just applied for a liquor license for beer and wine. So we have here the standard settlement agreement that we do with all of the restaurants that have applied for liquor licenses. I won't go through all of the provisions. I'll just point out a couple things that are a little bit different from the ones we've done before. In this one, in the section under music and entertainment, number 9, it says the applicant shall be permitted to present live or recorded music inside the restaurant as soft background music for dining. The change there is that we've added present live music in addition to the recorded music. That's to give them the opportunity to do some traditional Sri Lankan music in the restaurant. And then, on number 11, applicant shall not install or utilize any video games or jukeboxes at the restaurant. I took out video, what was it, a video monitor or something, because they do have a video monitor on the wall that's showing pictures of Sri Lanka, a slideshow of Sri Lanka. So I took out mention of the video monitor there. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. So I make a motion to approve this settlement agreement. And someone from Banana Leaf is here if you have any questions.
Yeah, I have one question. So, clause 13, it doesn't really make any sense. So applicant shall post no signs in public space or outside the restaurant advertising alcohol, beer, and/or wine sales, happy hours, or the like, except in conjunction with regular meal service. What does that mean? So you're not allowed to put like happy hour 5 to 7. You're not supposed to,
Right.
like on the window. But this seems to say that we're okay with it. Though I don't think it's legal actually. But what is it supposed to say?
As part of beer and wine sale, well, to advertise outside, like the restaurants do, to put a little board outside like Acacia does.
Oh,
saying,
okay. So
Free wine. The one that
free
says
wine,
free wine.
right. point is not to let the establishment become just a liquor establishment, just a bar.
No. Yeah, it's just not very clear.
So the first part's clear, shall post no signs in public space,
Yeah, I agree with that.
except in conjunction with regular meal service. That's the
That kind of
That's the
guts,
part
guts
that
the rest
guts
of
the rest of it.
it. So concern. So maybe we clarify that the foregoing sentence shall restrict signage in the windows, but not in public space. So I'm okay with like the little spinny thing Acacia does, like on the sidewalk. Like that doesn't bother me personally, but I don't want to see like wine special 50% off tonight on the glass windows.
Okay, this is
'Cause
only
you're not
referring to
supposed to do
public
that.
space.
Yeah, but
Any
actually,
glass window is
Acacia's
not
not
public
supposed
space.
to be
Well,
doing what
it
they're
says
doing.
or outside the restaurant, so I
Yeah.
read that as windows.
Okay.
That's how I read it.
What's window are on the little things that they're putting out. He's really not supposed to.
Yeah, I know.
But nobody.
So
This clause doesn't say that they can't do that unless it's,
Except in
With the meal.
conjunction with regular meal service.
so a sign that would say half-price wine with your meal would be okay, but half-price wine with your meal would not
Like
be
a
okay.
happy app, like a big.
Yeah,
Well, they-
just
they-
come in and drink
Right.
would be prohibited. Come in and enjoy some wine, some delicious Sri Lankan wine with your delicious Sri Lankan buffet would be fine.
Number 5 says applicant shall offer food service to his patrons at all times. It's
yeah, so
Right.
he has to serve.
At no time shall a patron
Alcohol.
be able to purchase
All
alcohol.
Like we did for Pad
Not
Thai.
able to purchase
Yeah, all of
So I
them.
think that's covered.
Okay, well, we can drop it if you think it's covered. That's fine
No,
with
I
me.
would keep it because we have it in all the others, but it's said a little differently. I just can't remember how we said it.
I mean, doesn't 12 solve 13? Do we need 13? Because 12 just says you can do whatever signs zoning lets you do,
That's fine with me.
whatever that is. So we don't need 13.
Well, I don't know, okay, I'm not sure that's true
Yeah,
because.
I don't know.
Why don't we let it go through and see what how they relate to it, ever.
Abra?
It certainly sounds like this is sufficient to keep it from operating as a bar-type establishment.
Right.
So I feel very,
That's what it's trying to
very
do.
comfortable with
Right,
that.
and you don't want signs out front saying, beer blitz,
Right.
Buzz McKenzie's coming.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, we don't do, you're not supposed to have alcohol umbrellas with, like,
Correct.
alcohol brands on them. This would allow that. We're not allowed to do, we don't do that.
Wait,
So,
No,
we
no,
don't.
no,
we're
that
not-
wouldn't, how would that allow that?
Because that's not a signage, or, where are we limiting that anywhere here?
Well, it says applicants shall not display any alcohol-related banners.
Sure, but you
Yeah,
can,
Well, we can add umbrellas
yeah.
or site furniture, site
Marketing
furnishings.
materials, I think if you want to get it.
Doesn't Acacia have Chimay?
He's not
Some of
supposed
them
to,
have
he's
Chimay
not supposed to.
umbrellas.
Yeah,
He's not supposed to.
He's not supposed
He's
to,
agreed
though.
not to do that. So if he does.
nothing up in here has it, because that was
Yeah.
specifically said to Comet and Bucks, that they couldn't do
Because
that.
I view the umbrellas as signage. I don't know, in 12.
But
Okay.
does that need to-
But I don't know. I mean, zoning doesn't care if you have a delirium tremens umbrella, but we generally, as a matter of principle, don't allow that for whatever reason. Just everyone agrees to that.
Okay.
So
Well, not everyone, but
No, everyone agrees to it. Every voluntary agreement has it.
Okay.
Whether or not they're
Whether
doing
they
it,
do it.
that's fine. We could file a complaint, I guess. But
It's called a.
so I don't.
It's-
I mean,
it's
I would
called a
rather not
voluntary
put something in
agreement.
that we're not going to
No,
enforce.
no, it's a
though.
settled
To me,
agreement
that's-
now.
we don't enforce any of this. But Well, can you get the
Didn't the
person
name
that works
change
for them and see what they
to voluntary agreement?
Yeah.
What question do you have? She's right here.
Who is she?
Ramani.
Hey, how are you? So I guess, are you planning to do you have umbrellas outside or anything? Are you going to do that?
We are planning to have outside safety, yes.
Okay.
But they haven't applied to public space for that yet.
Okay, that's fine.
And when we did that for Bread First, we stipulated in the application for the public space for the cafe that there would be no advertising on the umbrellas. That wasn't part of their liquor license.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Whatever.
No,
I don't think it's correct, but
suggest an amendment.
I don't know any amendment. I would just delete 13, honestly.
I know, he's going to change this.
I'm fine with that. Are you okay with deleting 13? Or do you think it needs to be there?
I guess I don't see a problem, because I would leave it, but, because it's saying about the signs.
So, our standard is applicant will post no signs on public space advertising liquor sales or happy hours. Because that's different to me than...
Than saying in conjunction with regular meals?
Yeah.
Well, would you rather substitute
Just
that
substitute
language?
that
I don't know why we
language.
need
Yeah,
that
let's
last
just do that.
clause.
Yeah.
Which last clause?
Except in conjunction with regular meal
Yeah,
service.
just delete that clause.
Okay.
Okay.
So delete that clause, that's fine. Fine.
We need to change the settlement agreement to voluntary.
No, it is correct now.
It is correct now?
Yeah.
It's
not
reverse?
It's settlement now.
Now it's settlement, reverse, okay.
Okay, so fine, let's delete that. That's fine.
Okay.
All right,
So I'll make a motion to pass it as amended with that clause removed.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Passes unanimously, thank you.
Just the last clause of 13, except in conjunction with.
All right, so next up we have a presentation by Sidwell. So Sidwell's in my single-member district. They are in the process of purchasing the home there on Upton and 37th to move the lower school there. They filed their zoning application, I think Friday. Was it Friday?
So Katie, Friday we filed?
Something like that.
Friday, yeah.
So when's your hearing?
I don't know. Katie, do you know when the hearing is scheduled?
Okay. So we have a bit of time. So we won't do a resolution or anything tonight. We'll just have you present. We have time for a few questions because we can't be here all night to answer everyone's questions, but hopefully
we'll be back.
Hopefully you'll be back.
Yeah,
most
right.
likely.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So,
Yeah.
So I met with Sidwell briefly, and they showed me the plans. I've met with neighborhood groups and neighbors, and I've gotten about 100 emails. So I have comments from lots of people. So I guess I'll turn it over to you guys to kind of present what you're planning to do, and then we'll have time for some questions from us and the audience and go from there.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for making time for us. I'm Brian Garman, head of school at Sidwell. And since we were encouraged to...
Can I ask you to say your name again?
Brian Garman, Garman. It's with a Y, too. Thank you. Since we were encouraged to put a bid on the Washington home, we've tried to work with them in a neighborly fashion to meet their needs. We've been a part of this neighborhood for almost 100 years, and we value our relationship with the residents. And I want to thank Chuck Ludlam in particular from Springland Farms for reaching out to us and working with us. I want to especially recognize the people who are heading up subcommittees, one on traffic, which is Vanessa Johnson in the back. Dina Curtis is heading up a committee on design, and Richard Danzig is heading up a committee on the construction process. I also want to introduce two additional members of the Sidwell Friends community. One is the Associate Head of School, Ellis Turner. Ellis, if you could just stand for a minute so people could see you. Ellis will serve as the ombudsman to the community, so if you have any questions, please contact Ellis if you're not getting the information that you want or you have other issues that you'd like to raise. Ellis can be reached via email at turnere@sidwell.edu, and his extension is 202-537-8184. Also, there is a tab on our website called Campus Planning, and you can raise questions there at any time that you would like to do that. In terms of the design and the timing of the building, just some very top-level points I would like to make. One is that we are planning to reuse 80% of the building. That is consistent with our mission of environmental stewardship, but it will also lessen the impact on the neighborhood. There's some small demolition that we would plan to do, and our architects will walk you through that as well. We will be asking for 1,250 students at the school, which represents a modest increase of what we have right now, which is 1,150. The building is 160,000 square feet and could certainly accommodate more than the 100 extra students in our view, but we'll walk through that with the BZA. So we're happy to take any questions about that. And we are making some modest changes to, proposing some modest changes to the front facade of the building. But our architects, again, will be able to give you a better sense of that. Our architects are ENIAD from New York, and one of the reasons we hired ENIAD is because they have such a commitment to environmental stewardship. They are experts in educational design, and we have been very happy to be working with them because they're extraordinarily collaborative, and I hope that you feel that this evening as well. So I will introduce Susie Rodriguez, a partner at ENIAD in New York.
So I guess we have some boards to show you, so maybe we'll do it from here. Hopefully we'll be able to pivot them. Our whole team will take this presentation together. Anyway, we're here to introduce a project. It's something that we've been working with Sidwell for some time, just regarding the lower school, and this became an opportunity when they were approached to be able to expand their campus, to unify their campus. So, as you're familiar, this is the current boundary of the existing Sidwell campus, and this is the expansion of the Washington Home site to the north, 5.7 acres. Again, we can leave these for people to show them after, but these just show some of the existing conditions. One of the things I think that's very important is that it is the opportunity to extend not just the buildings but the landscape. And so as a campus in the district, but to bring all three divisions to one. If you could put that down, yeah, why don't we do that? And then we'll do this one here. We had hoped to project, so this isn't quite as seamless as we had hoped. But in any case, I think to introduce you to this, it's very important to understand the overarching concepts. And this, as the existing campus, has the upper school and the middle school, and the introduction of the Washington Home provides a place for the lower school to be part of this overall campus experience, bringing it to one consolidated campus. And so this diagram really explains that. So it enables a central unified space that brings together all the divisions. But then, as Brian said, the preservation of the majority of the Washington Home building, except for some minor demolition here. And so I want to go to this board. So to accomplish the unified campus, there'd be, the red is modest, the demolition of 2 buildings on the current campus and the 1-story piece of the Washington Home site. And then we're looking at the reconfiguration of the parking areas to incorporate all the drop-off and pickup on the campus itself. The yellow is new construction, and the blue is all the existing Washington Home that will be renovated and transformed to be made into the lower school. It's a 3-story building, and of about 40 feet maximum height. The new gym addition, because all the floor-to-floor heights of the existing, as you imagine, it's residential, is 12-foot floor to floor, so could not accommodate a gym. So this is the one area where the new gym will be, and it will be no taller than the Washington Home building. And then on this part of the existing site, a new campus center. The campus center will be able to bring everybody together in one building with a cafeteria, primarily really just a cafeteria and some gathering space. I think that does it for that board. So as we are in the preliminary design phases, our work has been really to do due diligence to make sure the program fits, but in trying to share with you exactly the impact. This is looking north. So this is the existing campus. All the gray buildings are the existing campus 3939 and the post office. Oh, sorry. We're talking to too many people. In any case, so this shows the new campus center. One of the things that's unique about, as many of you who are neighbors, is that the topography is quite dramatic. And it's from here to here is more than a story. And from here to here is actually 2 stories, about 20 feet. So the Washington Home is really kind of nestled into the site, much lower building than any of the existing here. This will be stepped down. And then one of the things that's very important to, I know, the neighbors, but also to Sidwell, is to preserve the landscape buffer. And one of the things that is coming into question is the tennis courts. And we know we're looking for alternatives. It is a program element that's important to the campus, but we're really looking at what can be done to accommodate that. But even with this scheme, the whole landscape buffer along 37th is being preserved, set back from here as well as it turns. There's a play area, and then Jamie Milanovich from our parking consultant will go into the whole drop-off sequence. So that's looking north, and then this is looking south. So here you see we're not planning to paint the building blue, I promise. It's really just about showing what is being renovated and what is new construction. Oh, sorry, there you go. Another, I think, the thing that's very important to note is, and we will get into just a preliminary conversation about the traffic plan and the drop-off and pickup, but preserving the 2 curb cuts that exist on the site and then resolving that within it. And then as we're looking, this is a preliminary rendering, but I think important just to give you a sense of what we're thinking about to reinforce the issue of environmental stewardship, the integration of the building into the topography, the integration of green roofs to sort of minimize heat island effect and also create productive, potentially productive green space that's reinforcing what's going on here in the middle school where there's urban agriculture. You can see the step topography, this new central green. But these images really are showing Quaker precedent and looking at the opportunity to unify the campus with porches. So that really aspirational at this point. But as we develop the character of it, we really hope that it's a campus that continues to be about landscape and building together and how they work together. So I think that gives you a pretty good sense of at least the initial massing of what's being done. And now Jamie might want to go into further detail about the parking.
Sure. My name is Jamie Milanovich. I'm with Wells & Associates, I'm the transportation consultant for the project. I thought I would spend just a couple of minutes just kind of talking about where we are in the process, the work that we've done, where we are in terms of talking with DDOT about the traffic study. And then I'll get into the details of the proposed plan in terms of how we're handling the drop-off and pickup operation and that kind of thing. So we've actually done some extensive data collection, both in the upper school, middle school campus, as well as in the lower school, to quantify what the needs are in terms of parking and queuing and making sure that we can accommodate the lower school traffic on the Washington Home site and not have it spill out onto the adjacent roadway systems. And so we've really spent the last couple of months working with the architects and the design team to come up with a design, like I said, that will handle that drop-off pickup operation and all of the parking on site. So now that we've got what we believe is a very workable design in place, we've actually started scoping the study that will be required to submit with the BZA application, or conjunction with the BZA application. We started scoping that with the DDOT. We met with them last month. We've submitted their required scoping document. We expect to hear back from them in the next week or so. And then we'll be doing that traffic study and filing that with DDOT and the BZA prior to the hearing. And so that traffic study will look at potential impacts to the surrounding community. It will make recommendations in terms of operations, in terms of potentially signal timing changes, how we can really make sure that we minimize or mitigate the impact to the community. And so, you know, while we've done a lot of work today, we still have some work to do, and over the next month we'll be doing that and filing our traffic study that DDOT will be obviously reviewing thoroughly. So that's where we are in the process today. But as I said, we've really worked hard the last couple of months to quantify what the needs are so we can make sure we can accommodate those on campus. And we've got a slide here that shows the current drop-off and pickup locations, which are shown here in green. There's Zartman Circle, which primarily handles some after-activity pickup, after tennis practice, that kind of thing. There's the upper school drop-off pickup area that is in the garage below grade off of Wisconsin Avenue. And then we have the middle school drop-off pickup that happens on 37th Street adjacent to the middle school. We're proposing 2 new drop-off pickup areas. One will be a new circle off of Wisconsin Avenue in the area where the existing tennis courts are, if you're familiar with campus. This will be located next to the new campus center, and what we're really envisioning here is that this will be an area for families that have kids in multiple schools, in the lower school, in the middle school, and the upper school, because we see this as a great connection so that they can drop their kids off at one location, they can walk down to the middle school, they can enter easily into the lower school, or they can walk over to the upper school. And so we're really envisioning this as an area for families with kids in multiple schools. We've also designed the Washington home site where the lower school will be to have a new drop-off area, which will actually be able to accommodate a significant number of cars.
Yes.
This just shows a blow-up of that area, and what we've done is during drop-off pickup time, parents would enter via the existing curb cut where the current service drive is, and then we've designed this for double lanes of stacking on campus, and then...
Is that on 37th, the curb cut you're talking about?
Yeah, yes, the service drive is on 37th across from Irving Street. And so we've designed this for double lanes of stacking, and we'll have traffic control officers on site to manage this traffic flow, but the drop-off pickup then would happen in front of the front door, and then traffic would leave via the existing curb cut on Upton Street. And under this design, we can accommodate 62 cars on campus at one time. So with this proposed design for the Washington home site, coupled with the new circle at the campus center, we're able to accommodate that drop-off pickup operation entirely on the site and not need to use, that's the drop-off pickup operation for the lower school, not need to use 37th or Upton to accommodate that. The upper school will still continue their drop-off pickup operation in the garage as they do today. The middle school will still continue to use 37th Street as they do today. But you know, we've met with the community, some members of the community. We understand the concern with spillback onto the street, so we wanted to make sure that all of that lower school traffic is handled on site.
What will happen to bricks and all of the things that are in the ground next to that? There are bricks in the ground, and there are beyond that.
Are you
Turtle Pond?
Right, and Turtle Pond.
I think the Turtle Pond and bricks are all part of the new development, is that right?
Right.
Yeah, the intention is that the Turtle Pond and bricks are probably sort of right in this area
Right,
here.
and
And this is the new gymnasium, so this would be a play area for the lower school.
Right, and so.
Whether that will be integrated or not, we don't know yet.
Bricks.
Excuse me?
What's going to happen to the bricks and the various sculptures that are there?
We haven't gotten to that level of design yet.
So pickup locations 4 and 5, that you have mentioned that it's the sort of same traffic flow, that they keep going to the middle school to stay straight on 37th?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that we'll be doing in conjunction with this BZA application is implementing a transportation management plan, and that will have 2 components. The first component will be looking at strategies to actually reduce the volume of traffic coming to and from the campus. And that includes things like running a shuttle bus to the metro station to encourage not just students but also faculty and staff to ride metro. We're looking at some outreach and education programs, participating in programs that encourage students to walk and bike to school, providing alternative commute benefits for employees such as pre-tax transit benefits. Those types of things will be included in the transportation management plan. The second component of that is the operations, and that's really looking at ways to make the traffic flow more efficiently. And so what we're doing is working with the school to develop a system whereby, today at the lower school, if any of you are familiar with that campus, parents actually have to physically park and then walk to the school and pick up their students and walk back. That process takes a long time, and so cars are there longer. So we're looking at a system where the parents would stay in their cars, they would be in this queue, and the students, you would have a number in your car that's tied to your student, and so the students, a monitor on campus would radio that number back to the office, and then the students would begin getting ready, and so when the parents arrive at the front door, they're ready to go, and it's a much quicker process, so we can process more cars and get them in and out quickly. The other thing that we'll be doing is assigning parents to a specific drop-off area so that we don't overload any one drop-off area. So you can't decide, on Monday you're going to pick up here, and on Tuesday you decide you're just going to pick up on Wisconsin. You will have an assigned area, and that's the way we can ensure that we don't exceed the capacity and we handle everything on site. So those types of things will be included in the operations part of the management plan.
There's one other aspect, is there's no longer there will be no longer 2 campuses, so the shuttle bus services that go back and forth, et cetera, will be eliminated.
Right, and that's really where the idea to run that shuttle then to Metro came from. Since we don't need it to run between campuses, it makes sense to run it to the nearby Metro.
So what stops a parent from parking on Upton and going in to get their kid because they don't want to sit in the middle of this stacking thing?
Right, well, so we actually have excess parking in the upper school garage, and so if a parent needs to park for whatever reason, and there will be times that they need to park, but they will be directed to park in the upper school garage and walk over to pick up their child, because we are providing the parking on campus for them.
How many more cars do you expect to have on this site with moving the lower school to the site?
Give me 1 second, I have that number. Unfortunately, I don't have it memorized.
The reason I ask is because the area's overloaded somewhat now. I know Adam has been dealing with Hearst and the middle school drop-off right across from each other for a long time. Now you're adding the same pressure at that intersection of the middle school, or the lower school coming in. So that's why I'm asking the question, because
it's a good question. I think one of the advantages we have is that the middle school and the lower school are offset slightly in terms of their dismissal time, and so the peak time when the students or the parents are arriving to pick up the lower school students will not be at the same peak time that they're arriving to pick up the middle school. So we've been able to kind of spread that apart. But at the current lower school, we have about 160 cars coming in and leaving in the morning during the peak hour. And then when school lets out, we have about 120 cars coming in and then leaving to pick up their children. And that's from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, which is the peak time then. Now, that does not include the transportation demand management plan that I referenced, so we'll be looking to reduce that number with the transportation demand management, and not just that number, but also the number of trips that are currently coming from to and from the upper and middle school as well.
Okay, so you got 120, but then how many do you have the middle school coming, roughly?
I don't have
Because
a
you're
breakdown.
putting-
I have the middle school and the upper school combined. I don't have the breakdown with me. I can get that for you, but I don't have it here tonight. But the total trips or the total vehicles for the upper school campus, we have in the morning we have 680 cars inbound. And in the evening, in the afternoon, from 3:15 to 4:15, we have 270 cars outbound.
Big difference.
Yeah, what typically
600
happens
in the morning, 680.
Yeah, what typically happens, there's a lot of after-school activities, and so in the
So it
evening,
spreads
it's
it
more
out.
spread out. It's not as concentrated, whereas in the morning, kind of everybody is arriving generally in a short period of time.
And so could you repeat what you said, that the new lower school route, how many cars can it accommodate at one time on your property?
62. I think you're referring to this diagram. Yeah,
62 that can line up?
Right. We've got 2 lanes of cars stacking here, and then a single lane around the circle, and that gets us 62 at one time.
And then I guess the road in right now. So when I initially met, they're saying, so right now the road does not match to the 3 stop signs, I guess.
Right, yeah.
And they were, when I initially met with Sidwell, they were saying DDOT might make it all line up, which makes sense to me because it's kind of in the middle of an intersection.
Yeah, DDOT has
there-
asked us to
Okay.
line that up, so that's something we're looking to do, yeah.
Okay.
And I should have mentioned, if I didn't, this service drive, you can see here we've got this red, these denote gates. And so after drop off in the morning, that gate will be closed. And after, it will be open then again before pickup. And so during the day, this curb cut will be open for service vehicles only. And visitors during the day would use the curb cut on Upton. And so this curb cut will be used by parents just for the drop-off and pickup. And actually, the architects have been working with the landscape architects and coming up with a design where that doubles as play space. So when the cars aren't using it for drop-off pickup, it becomes a play area.
And then I guess if the truck needs to come to pick up garbage or something, where is that coming into here, or is that at some other part of campus?
No, this is going to be the primary service access for the
Okay.
campus, similar to what it is now,
Okay.
Washington Home. But this won't be, it won't be an egress right now. You could have come in, and many people come in and out here, but that will be, except for pickup and drop-off, will be just a service.
Oh, okay.
It's the same as it was.
Got it.
Correct.
The trucks come in on the bottom and they come to the back. But then you go around, you go the other way around the circle, but you go around that circle the other way when you're going.
Regular cars, yeah.
Yeah, we're reversing the flow of the circle just to get it on.
Yes, because you're doing
appropriate
the
side.
stack up.
Right.
Which is a good idea, but it does put more pressure on 37th Street where you have the middle school and Hearst. So I understand your logic, but it's putting a lot more cars on 37th Street.
Right, and I understand the issues with 37th Street. It's very narrow. It's hard to get through during those times. But again, what we're really, while they are coming in on 37th Street, they're not going to be queuing up on 37th Street because we've designed this to have, significant capacity. I can't even think of another school that has this much capacity on its campus. So, while yes, they will be coming in off of 37th Street, we're not proposing to have them stack on 37th Street.
Did you all consider possibly having them come off of Upton, like not extending that so you have a new curb cut? I know it's a curb cut, but this firm is very good at getting curb cuts because I work with them on Park Van Ness.
Yeah, we have looked at that.
This takes some of the pressure off 37th Street.
Yeah, and we spent actually a lot of time looking at that because that was our first inclination, was to look at, could we use the existing curb cut where it is, and if not, could we move it further down? The key here is we have to be able to feed the queue from behind. So you want all of the traffic to come from behind. Obviously the main entry of the building, since we're reusing it, is in its current location. So that really prompted us to say, well, could we move the curb cut down here and then have it come in and feed the queue, somehow this way? It reduces the amount that we can fit on campus, and the other issue we run into is some grading issues and some issues with the mature trees. Yeah.
The topography here, for those of you who are familiar, is very steep. It's where the cupola is, and there's a lot. It's quite beautiful, and the whole idea is trying to preserve as much of that as possible. And then to really do that, it became very steep. And then you really destroy that natural corner.
I know it's pros and cons for both, but
So do you envision any queuing on 37th, or do you think it'll?
No. Again, we're doing a number of things besides providing, the 62 spaces here. We're still working on the design of the shared circle, but it's looking like we're going to get something like 30 cars in the shared circle. But just by virtue of improving the efficiency by going to this type of operation as opposed to a short-term parking type operation, we can significantly reduce the amount of queuing space needed, and then add to that the TDM plan that we're implementing to reduce traffic. We're very comfortable that we're going to be able to accommodate that queuing on site.
Can you talk more about the Wisconsin new circle you're talking about there? How many cars that's going to take? Because some of those take the lower school, the number 3.
Yeah, right. So
right now you're going around a building that other people are in.
Right. So this is you would enter where the existing service road is, if you know where that is.
Yep.
Come around into a new circle where the tennis courts are, and then you would exit at the signal that's shared with the post office. And again, we're still working on the design of this, but what we're looking at doing is doing a double lane here, much like we are on the lower school site or on the Washington home site, which gets us 32. There are currently about 68 families that have students in the lower school as well as the upper middle school. There are something like 60 families that have students in both the upper and middle school. And so, to be honest, we still have to figure out how many of those parents, is it just the 68, is it the 68 plus the 70, or some portion of the 60 or 70 families that can be assigned here without, clearly we can't spill back onto Wisconsin Avenue. So we still have a little bit of work to do to determine how we're going to assign this location to make sure, ideally, we're going to bleed a little bit of traffic off of 37th Street. Those families that today are dropping off on 37th that have students in both schools. Some of the lower school traffic will use this, potentially even some of the upper school. But we need to take some time and be very careful and make sure how we assign it to make sure that we don't overload either this or this. And that's, like I said, we still have a little bit of work to do on that.
Just to clarify this diagram, it's important just to know that there's a bridge, if any of you are familiar with the Washington home. So this will be a direct entrance into the lower school, a direct entrance into the campus center that draws you right down to the middle school, and then a new entrance into the upper school at that end. So it is a place of overlap for all. So it will really work for families that share all divisions.
Okay. So I guess, do commissioners have any other questions at the moment? Otherwise, I'll let others.
Right. Will you be coming back with another presentation?
Yeah, they'll be back a few times probably.
And I guess we'll have moved further in our traffic study and have some of the answers, just the details.
And we're
we don't
happy to
quite
give you
worked
a
out.
screen and a projector to bring
That would be great. We brought
just
them
let
with
us know, and we'll get it set up. Okay.
Is somebody going to address what's happening to the patients at the Washington home?
To the what, I'm sorry?
To the patients at the Washington home.
Yeah, I can say that in the conversations we had with the home throughout the negotiation, that was very much foremost in their minds. home so that they could meet the needs that they had in patients. The home is committed to creating individualized transition plans for each patient, and based on the conversations that I've had with them, I believe they will do that, and I think that they've already started to do that. But that's really a question that the home is better equipped to answer than we are. I don't think anybody who runs a nonprofit would take the changing of its business model lightly, and I think the home reckoned with that very seriously, and made the decision to sell the property because of a change in their business model, and they were staunch advocates for their residents throughout the negotiation process. So I would direct the question to them, but that's what I can say in terms of our relationship in the negotiation with the home.
I was a resident at the home, and I would have to disagree, but I moved here a week ago, and I was very glad to move. And I live there now, and help us all. So it's very nice to be here, and I like it very much.
Do any other commissioners have questions?
Would it make sense to invite the owners of the home to our next meeting to get more details on their end, to share it with members of our community?
I mean, I can invite them if you wish. It's not particularly
I don't know if
relevant
this
to
is
the
part of
zoning
the-
issue, but I'm happy to have them come and tell us their plans, I think.
We probably know.
All right, so I guess we have some time for a handful of questions from the audience. I'll start in the front. Go.
Have you given any thought to the impact of all this vehicle traffic and construction traffic on surrounding streets? All this has been focused on the adjacent streets, which are Upton, 37th, and Wisconsin, Van Ness, 37th, 38th. Since I live on Van Ness and have the Van Ness Street Residents Association concerned about it, I thought I'd ask. Sure.
Wait a minute, excuse me. Could people asking questions please state your name before your question? Thank you.
So yeah, we know that's a concern. That's going to be part of the study that we're currently scoping with DDOT. And so what we have to do is go to DDOT with the proposed study area, make sure DDOT's comfortable with that, that it's big enough that we're addressing those types of issues. So we will be, like I said, we're going to have a busy next month or so creating that study for DDOT, but that will look at intersections on Van Ness as well as other streets, not just around the perimeter of the school, but north and south of the school as well.
Tom.
Excuse me. My name is Tom Cam. I live at 38th and Van Ness, and I have a fifth grader at the Hurst Elementary School across the street from City. One of the things that I'm concerned about is that when Hurst was renovated, it was first to be renovated, and the traffic situation wasn't really rectified when Hurst was renovated, and now Sidwell is being renovated, and Sidwell, it's all about what Sidwell needs, and the two halves of the equation never really talk to each other. So I'm wondering if there's any way that DDOT can get involved in this conversation so that there's an integrated approach to the traffic on 37th Street. Because I can tell you, if you put another 165 cars on 37th Street coming in and going through Washington Home, in addition to the cars that queue up for Hurst and the middle school between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, it's going to be a mess. And so if there is something that can be done to change the direction of the streets during pickup and drop off, if it can be made a one-way street so that everyone's going in one direction and that's what we do, or there's something that can be done to integrate the whole traffic situation there, I really strongly recommend that the ANC support that and demand that both parts of the
Yeah.
Yes.
So I reached out to the person at DDOT who coordinates school traffic, I guess. Fortunately, she left last week and doesn't work there anymore, but she introduced me to the new person.
That's good.
So my goal is to meet with him and kind of get Hurst and Sidwell talking to each other, because I see this as the opportunity to fix all of this. So we have supported like no parking on one side and one way, like the ANC, we're happy to do whatever it takes to fix it. So I think we will all need to sit together and figure it out.
Will's assignment is not to track the traffic that goes to Hearst because it could hire for City Hall. So I'm curious if you have tracked the traffic that goes to Hearst and goes to Hearst.
Right, so when we've been out doing counts, we haven't specifically counted the number of cars that are going to and from Hearst, but we've counted, the intersections, and those are part of those intersection counts. I will say, and I think Brian could probably add to this, but we did meet with DDOT, and they did ask us to reach out to Hearst to discuss with them, how Sidwell and Hearst might be able to coordinate to improve the situation there. I know that Katie's had a number of conversations with them. So that's something DDOT's asked us to take a look at. And Brian, I don't know if you have anything to add.
A couple times, and actually, a couple years ago, we changed our start time to move it further away from Hearst, so that we could try to stagger the pickup and drop off. And so we want to continue to talk about that, and will. So it's a good point.
I live very close to Washington Hall.
Name?
And
Your name, please?
Your name?
I'm Henry Deal. I live at 4108 38th Street, and I can see traffic becomes, in one of your diagrams, some 60, some cars will be staggered through in front of the current Washington home, are going to have to get out someplace. And they'll have a choice of either going out directly on Wisconsin Avenue, coming through my street, or through 37th. But in any case, it's very substantial amount of traffic. So of course, I have a little concern in this as to whether you really look at all the alternatives, since you have all those tennis courts, marvelous tennis courts on the west side that have the traffic that you could put on your campus and deal with it and get it on Wisconsin Avenue where it belongs.
You're talking about moving the tennis courts, is that your
I'm talking about you doing what you've done to the other school, coming on Wisconsin.
Right.
To the lower school as well.
Yeah, and I think the traffic and architects can probably speak to that. My sense is that it's difficult because of the terrain and the pattern of the campus. But
They're called elevators.
I'm sorry.
The terrain is not a problem. You can handle that.
With what, car elevators you suggest?
Not car elevators. I'm talking about where you have your drop off. You've got the whole block. After the Washington place, you've got the whole block. And I understand there's some discussion of Washington home leaving. Is that correct?
I'm not following.
Leaving their current building?
That's the plan. Yes.
Okay, so you have an entire block to deal with your traffic. You don't need to use the local streets. You can exit everything on Wisconsin Avenue with the traffic light.
I think it's a challenge to do that. I mean,
The challenge, which I have confidence that you'll be able to solve.
I think I can at least try to respond to that. So a couple of things. We're not tearing down the Washington Home building. That building stays. So we don't have the ability to do something underground like was done at the upper school. The other issue we have is that we don't own the entire block. This piece, the post office, is not part of our project, so we can't push through there to connect to Wisconsin Avenue. But what we have done to try to address that concern is provide this other drop-off area to move as much of that traffic as we can to Wisconsin Avenue.
Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa Johnson. I'm trying to work with Sidwell on the traffic planning. One of the things that I had suggested strongly, because I was at an ANC meeting a year or more ago to ask the same thing that time, was to eliminate the parking on the east side of 37th Street because it blocks, it prevents, it messes up the queuing, the current queuing of the middle school parents of middle school, and if that, having experienced that wasn't possible now is because, according to the person I spoke with when Adam and I were on the phone with the woman who's just left,
Yeah.
she said that it wasn't close enough to a school, DDOT wouldn't allow it, because it wasn't contiguous to a school. But now there will be a school property, I'm hopeful that DDOT will be able to allow that because it will be school property, and so they can more easily say,
Yeah.
this is what we have. So I'm hoping that will.
And we had supported that, so, you know, I think I'll ask him again. I think that's something that should be pretty easy to do, I think. Hopefully.
Hope so, but
You never know. I guess we have time for a few more, and then we'll kind of move on to our next topic, but I'm sure Sidwell will be back again, and it sounds like, based on the comments so far, the parking and pickup and drop-off is the big issue, so I'm sure we will chat and figure it out, but I guess, go with you.
I live on 38th Street also.
Sure.
I hear a lot of talk about 37th, and I heard a lot of Upton and all different streets. We're also very strongly impacted, as Mr. Keto said. I would really encourage the ANC to be very active when it comes to this traffic plan. If you take the time to go down 37th Street now, you will find that it's impossible to go down that street. It takes forever during the morning and evening hours. It's absolutely ridiculous. The traffic is just it's going to spill out into our neighborhoods, and we would really appreciate your support to make sure this doesn't happen and really complicate something that's already complicated. It's just untenable right now. And you see people, you know, they cut through 38th, they cut through 37th, they cut through Upton every morning, every afternoon, and you know, it's no control. So we would really appreciate that. We have 16 homes on 38th Street between Upton and Van Ness, and every parking space is filled. We also are going to get traffic. We're going to get parking for the schools. We have the health club up on Wisconsin Avenue that people use to park there. We have the post office that people use to park there. So the other alternative may be restricted parking for that block as to who can park there. But there's got to be some give and take, and I would really encouraging people to take an active interest in what the solutions are. The other comment is, your numbers don't add up, at least what I heard. You said currently you have in your lower school 160 dropping off and 120 picking up. But all of a sudden, because of this wonderful traffic plan you're going to come up with, you're going to get it down to 62. Well, if you go anywhere over that 62,
Excuse me, I think the 62 is a different number.
I know it is. The 100, what I heard, and please tell me if I'm incorrect, it said 160 currently drop off at the lower school in Bethesda and 120 pickup. Now, if those numbers are wrong, tell me.
Yeah, so if I can clarify, so those numbers that I gave you were the peak hour numbers, so those are over an entire hour. The 62 spaces that we have designed on campus, the cars aren't going to be there anywhere close to an hour. They come in, they pick up, they leave. So we're getting much more than 62 in an hour.
There's 160 to 120 cars. Your plan calls for 62. Now, there's a big difference, like double the amount of what you're planning for. So that means if, in fact, you don't get that traffic down and you don't get that plan in place, you're going to have cars straying out on 37th Street again, up Upton as they are now, and on 37th Street. So I don't think you've thought this through, the process through very well, just based on your own numbers. So I'm looking forward to seeing, work with Vanessa and seeing what you come up with this traffic study, but I would expect that in our neighborhood, we're going to do a lot of pushback. That's just my comment.
Again, I think we're comparing apples to oranges. The 160, 120 cars, those were over an entire hour. And so, even if the cars stayed for 15 minutes, which they're not going to do, we're getting 4 times the capacity in an hour. So it's 62 times 4 that we're able to accommodate in an hour. And that's the number you need to compare to the peak hour.
Excuse me, can you drop off over an entire hour, though? Don't the kids all have to be at school at the same time?
Right. So it's a half hour window. Currently it's 15 minutes. We're expanding it to half.
You have to get 160 cars through that loop in a half an hour. Is what you're saying.
Places.
No, we have two places. So it's 62 here. So if we're accommodating it in a half hour, and then we've got 30 on this side, so we've got a total of 92 spaces.
Plus reduction strategies.
Right, but again, you know, because of the way we're setting this up, where you don't leave your car, so you don't have to take the time to get out, park your car, get out of your car, walk to get your child, walk them back, get in your car, leave. You stay in your car. It's a much, much more efficient process. So, you know, I use the example if they stay 15 minutes. I was trying to simplify, and I shouldn't do that, but I mean, they're there for a few minutes, and then they're gone. And so you're continually adding more people to the queue. So you're accommodating far more than 62 in that half hour.
Right, but if you ever have more than 62 at one time, they're going to spill out onto the street.
Well, but again, that's why we're taking a close look at how we assign these to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay. So I guess we'll do two more questions. I'll do Tom and the man in the back. So Tom, you want to go quick?
clear about the size of the student body in the lower school. How many students will be there?
There's 300 students currently enrolled at the lower school, roughly, and what we're at, so that would, what we're asking for is the ability to go to 1,250 students school-wide, which would be 100 over our total school population right now. Although we're not planning on using that in the near future, that's just to provide flexibility down the road.
Brian, do you have a notion of how many of those would be in lower school? The extra 100?
Oh, the extra 100 can be very few.
Let's say it's a quarter.
Yeah, most of our intake is in sixth grade, and so you would have, I don't know, maybe a quarter, maybe. Well, again, we don't have an enrollment plan for that right now. It's just, so I can't really speak to it.
But currently, you have 300 students
in the lower school, and so if you take the total population of our lower school campus and the total population of the Wisconsin campus, you're at 1,150.
I just want to put it in context. That's the same number of students that are at First Elm. So basically, you're adding a school the size of First Elm.
You get all these cars.
And so that's why I think there really needs to be an integrated approach to both
I agree.
schools and not just
Agree.
looking at some.
Right.
We want to do that. I mean, that just makes a lot of sense for everyone to try to have that.
I know, and I know you would support that. Seattle is a great neighbor in the neighborhood, and Washington Home was a great neighbor in the neighborhood. I think many of us are sorry to see Washington Home go, but, you know, City Walls is a hard area to do. It's just, I don't want to make bad matters worse as far as the traffic and the impact on the neighborhood go.
Right.
And, Washington Home did have turnover at staff, so every 8 hours their staff came and went, but it's a very different thing than 350 students being dropped off on that corner in addition to the other students that are dropped off.
Great. Last question in the back.
Yeah, I'm Mark Ravin. I live at 4019 37th Street, right at the corner of 37th and Upton. And there are a few things about this plan that I think need to be reconsidered. While it's true that not all 160 cars are going to be in that interior drive, 100 of them are going to be out waiting to get into that interior drive. And they've got to go somewhere. Unless you have a way to time when the parents come to the driveway, which I think in practice would not be feasible. So even though you're going to be moving cars through, there are going to be many cars waiting to get in. And the gentleman talked about considering alternatives. The idea of a staging someplace off campus where parents can drop off and the kids can get on a bus would deal with a lot of the concerns that you're hearing from the community when they're skeptical that these plans, once they're put into place, are going to be workable. And once they are put into place, I think we're going to be stuck with it. And that's part of the concern.
So I mean, I think generally speaking, it sounds kind of like when we initially chatted that this will be the big issue that we need to solve. It doesn't sound like people have too many concerns about whatever you're going to do to the building or whatnot generally. But it sounds like figuring this all out and working with Hearst is very important to me, so we can just fix this finally. And this seems like the right opportunity to do so. So, I mean, I've been talking a lot with neighbors and Springland Farms group, and they all live around there, so they're directly impacted. So hopefully over the next month or so we can just figure it out so that when December or January your hearing comes along, we all just go and present the solution. It's very simple for everyone. So that's my goal. So thank you for coming tonight. And,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Are they going to come back with another solution? Because they really
Yeah,
want to
they'll
flip.
come back. They'll come back.
And we would like to talk about the building because we didn't have a chance to talk about the height. But they're going for the variance.
No height.
It is. Isn't that the variance? The variance is the height. It's on the center building, yes, because of the elevation.
All right, so next topic is 3240 Fessenden. So I don't know who that is.
You gotta wait till these, or you gotta announce them to
So who is it? Sorry.
Guys, we need to move on to other business.
Excuse me, the meeting is still going on.
So if you are leaving, can you please leave and speak in the hallway? Thank you. Thanks. Sorry for making
Is this your plan? This is your big plan?
It is, there's slight tweaks on this.
It's Maribeth.
A slight adjustment just to go over with you guys.
No, this is on.
This is something else.
Same layout.
Yeah, this is the house you're tearing down.
I'm gonna end up scanning this and sending it to you.
Sorry. Everyone in the back, can you exit?
And please move further out.
Go in the main hall. Thanks. All right, go.
All right. Hi, David Landsman, Cass Engineering, representing the applicant, Ben and Lori Soto. Hi, guys. They are the proud homeowners of 3240 Fessenden.
Could you spell their names for us?
Their names?
Yeah.
Ben, B-E-N, Lori, Lori,
This couple
S-O-T-O.
here? Okay.
Soto.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And you are?
David Landsman, L-A-N-D-S-M-A-N, with CAS Engineering.
Let me just interrupt you for a minute. I handed out these drawings at last month.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I handed out these drawings at last month's meeting.
Yes.
And so you should have the large version from last month. David has made some changes, and so he has brought everybody new drawings, but they're small.
So I passed out the small ones. One's an enlarged version of the change, just so you can see it. And to go over the changes, a very minor change. The driveway as initially proposed was abutting the neighbor's driveway. At the request of DDOT, we've shifted it down the hill to allow for room for a single car to park between the driveways. It's their preferred layout to not have two driveways right next to each other. So just an overall project scope, I know you guys have looked at the plans, but we're planning on relocating the existing driveway apron, which is at the far low side of the lot, the east side, relocating it west. We're reducing the width a little bit, bringing it up to DDOT standards, and putting it in a pervious surface after the concrete apron, of course. We're removing the lead walk and don't plan on installing a new lead walk. So impervious areas.
A new what? I can't.
Lead walk, front door to the curb line.
Okay.
So overall, reducing impervious areas, planting 5 street trees. I think it's a win getting the driveway further away from the intersection as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Is there a reason you didn't keep the existing driveway?
The existing driveway didn't work with the new house layout and kind of the desired aesthetic for the property. It wasn't a situation we explored early on in the design process, but ultimately we decided to go with this.
So y'all are tearing down
Yes, ma'am.
the existing house, right?
been in communication with the neighbor most directly impacted next door to the driveway, and they don't have any issues with the driveway layout as proposed. Those folks, Brown, right? That's
Okay,
Brown.
so wait, hold on, let me get oriented. Okay, so
You're
wait, here's
driving downhill,
Fessenden.
stop signs here.
Okay.
So
Did they
have-
talk about putting a sidewalk in? There's no sidewalk on this. on
There
this
isn't a
plan.
sidewalk there, and there's not a sidewalk on the south side of Fessenden all the way from Connecticut.
Mhm.
Opposite side of the street, there's a sidewalk that ends one house
Mhm.
to the west. Seems to me that if DDOT were to do it, they would extend that sidewalk, but there hasn't been any talk about the sidewalk.
And the driveway's pervious?
Correct.
Cool.
But our design will allow for a sidewalk.
Our design will allow for a sidewalk. We're
That's what
putting-
I was gonna say.
We're
'Cause
putting
in
the trees.
future-
we're
Do you
putting
care
the-
if in the future there's a
Will-
sidewalk?
will it be graded?
Design will not prohibit it.
Good.
And that's been discussed.
You're on the record now. That's important.
DDOT's general policy on these, as of late, has been in areas where there aren't sidewalks and no plans of sidewalks that we know of on this side, is to plant trees and put everything in a manner where you could put a sidewalk in the future, kind of reserving the area
Yes,
for 'em.
they're supposed to do a street lot, the proper width.
So that's what our plan depicts as shown.
David, you mentioned planting 5 street trees. Where?
3, 4, 5.
Okay.
So evenly spaced along the front of the
And then,
property.
are you all taking down any mature trees?
We are taking down some mature trees.
Okay, how many and where?
Shoot. We are taking down, I want to say 3, and they're spaced through the backyard. One's very close to the existing house.
There's an X on them.
The other 2 are, I
There's
think,
an X
located
here,
a little bit
X
further
here.
in the back. Because of the steep topography for the lot, we're putting a retaining wall back there that's going to necessitate pulling out some of the dirt.
And how big are the trees that you're taking out?
37-inch, 39-inch, and this guy is a 51. It's leaning, if you walked up the driveway, there's a medley of walls in here. That tree's managed to survive all those walls.
And does the tree and slope overlay apply
That
to
does
the-
not apply to this square.
It does not?
We have tree permits for all of those trees.
Wow. Okay.
How wide's the curb cut?
12 feet.
Okay, cool. Any other commissioner questions on this? Otherwise, can you make a motion?
One of those trees are dead too.
Oh, really? Okay, you're gonna make me feel better about this?
Are you leaving the stump on the northeast part of the property? Is that yours? There's a stump there? Is that the dead tree you're referring to?
Oh, is it? Oh, I have no idea.
Right
Sorry.
here, there's a stump in the,
That stump will be pulled out. That's not the tree he's referring to. The tree he's referring to is the one that's stuck kind of in the middle of the walls, right where the driveway.
This one.
So wait, this isn't yours.
It's actually buried in
It's
here,
mine.
neck
Oh,
right
okay,
next to
okay.
it.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I was confused.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. That's so interesting, the tree and slope doesn't apply.
It is. It picked select squares around what I can tell is the exterior forest hills.
Yeah.
But not this square.
I know, there was some debate about that.
Many years ago.
Okay, so I guess, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, so I move that we accept the proposal to modify the curb cut and add the pervious surface driveway and add the 5 trees. What else do we need to do? And remove the existing lead walk. Is that
Right, and remove
all?
the existing driveway. I think that
And
kind of
remove
goes
the
without
existing
saying, but we're
driveway, yeah.
going to be filling that,
And
removing it,
sidewalk?
filling it in with grass and putting a curb.
About the retaining wall, just because I know as more downwind of this house, that we have a lot of drainage issues, some of which I've been trying to deal with DDOT about because there's only one storm drain on Allenbat Street, so a lot of the water from Connecticut comes down, jumps the curb, goes down 32nd, and sort of lands in that area, just, I don't know what direction but right where that is. So I went from just, in terms of the retaining wall, I'm just wondering how the raising and degrading of this house, because my mother owns the house next door, I own the house after that, how that, I worry about how that change is gonna affect the stormwater that comes sort of
Sure.
down to the bottom of this hill here.
So we're inherently at the bottom of it already, and the wall in the backyard is to lower that area to create a usable yard area. So I guess one thing, it won't prevent water from getting there. The wall will be at grade on the high side. The face you'll see from our property, but you won't see a wall from the high side. And we're taking measures to do stormwater management and route the flows sort of around our improvements, kind of in their natural path out to Fessenden Street, where they ultimately end up
But if you're
anyways.
going around that extra path, you're going to my mom's house.
No, we have drainage on our site. Most of my pipe network comes through this side, so lack of pointing there. We have a series of inlets in the rear yard that we take the water through pipes, through the driveway area, not surface flow.
So there's nothing back up farther in the yard, but right behind proposed house?
Right.
Do you have wells at those points?
We don't have wells in the backyard. We have a large infiltration trench, which dry well is what you're referring to.
Yeah, it might be wise to consider a well up there. So if you want pools with a big rush, you can maybe
Sure.
right into the pipes. We did that at our house. The southwest corner.
We'll certainly take a look at it. Our design accounts for all of that storage in this larger trench and a conveyance system to that trench. This area we've done infiltration tests on. We know the soils are good and infiltrate. So I think a well would be good if we weren't able to get the water down to this lower point
So
and
then
treat
the
it.
pipes would hook into, there's no pipe underneath the street going down to the drain below that leads down to the base of Fessenden?
No.
So you haven't tied into the storm drain
No.
system. So can you explain the system? That was one thing I was going to ask. You have a storm pump inlet. Can you explain the
Sure.
designations of the?
Yeah, I don't mind giving an engineering lesson. I would like to remind you guys that we're just talking public space items. So I don't want to
Well,
get too.
this is on
I don't want to
public
get too distracted. Our inlet
Well,
out here,
actually, the
so-
public space is here,
Right.
right? Okay.
So all of the water comes into this inlet. So this inlet serves two purposes. Catches runoff from these areas. It's all funneled down in here.
Mhm.
And the inlet, that inlet is set up like this. The grate up top.
Right.
The pipes come in and have, it's this kind of a crude way of drawing it. They have these turned down pieces on them.
Mhm.
So that encourages the dirt that comes in from any surface areas to kind of pile up here at the bottom. So one thing that DDOE requires us to do is we have a covenant to maintain the system. So this allows us to maintain it.
That's why I was
Come
asking,
and
because DDOE
trough the
probably,
dirt out.
DOEE now,
Yeah,
probably
right,
got you.
sorry, formerly DDOE.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sorry.
Okay.
So you
Did
made
anybody
it.
second
You
my
made it.
motion?
I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor of her motion?
Aye.
All right. Okay. 7-0-0. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being patient.
We'll review the queue.
Sidewalk. Who is the sidewalk?
That's me.
Okay, Andrea.
It's them.
It's those two guys.
Yes.
Is it their house? I don't know.
Fessenden Street sidewalks?
Sidewalk. Can you tell us what you do you want? Where?
On the south side of Fessenden, from the Broad Branch up, but we have a network that we propose
Okay.
for the whole neighborhood. There is a sidewalk that connects.
Do you have a drawing?
There's a picture in the
There are
resolution.
pictures of several. There is a sidewalk from the park, from the Barstow Park to the corner.
There's a map. Show us on the map.
And you can extend that sidewalk down from Dominion Avenue, extend the sidewalk west from Dominion on Fessenden, connect them with crosswalks and stop signs, and that will help people walking up the hill and down the hill. With the new house that was constructed at 3303 Fessenden, there was no more access to the sidewalk, and you can't believe the number of people with baby strollers and pets who walk up that street, who have to walk into the street for significant steps. Secondly, and I think Courtney Carlson can address this more directly, the cars build upstream when they're coming up Linnean, especially in the morning going up to Connecticut Avenue. And as you know, it's a very wide area there, at the intersection of 32nd Broad Branch and Fessenden. And there should be some way to calm that traffic. Maybe an island that they have to go around, some other method that should be possible. And most ideally would be to keep that traffic out of the immediate neighborhood by encouraging them to go across Rest, go left on Connecticut, down across that road. That would really relieve the traffic.
And I think
about
this
half
issue,
a square mile there.
the issue is, I mean, it's night and day on school days versus non-school days. I see my co-parents from school speeding by me. I sometimes show up almost in tears really at March because it's been a harrowing experience to take a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old to school by foot 3 blocks. And it's ridiculous. And
What's your address?
49 37th Street.
So you live, where is that, 32nd?
Where is that on?
Let me show you on the map.
Yes.
I mean, but also, it's like not about me, it's just about like
Well,
getting
the
to
whole
March.
area.
Yeah. And then my daughter doesn't go to March, my daughter walks down Lane. So.
Okay.
Is that near Fessenden or is that near Ellicott?
Yes, it's right around the corner.
Okay,
Okay.
so
It's almost at the bottom of 37th.
that's
Okay.
me, that's my mom, that's the sodas. Like who you just met.
Right.
And knocking that down.
This is you?
That's me.
Yeah, you just bought the house.
Yeah.
Or you did, okay. This is where the financial director lived.
Yeah, but now my
Well,
mom.
they're
Where
not-
your mom lives at.
Not yet, but she will.
Not the Burmese
Okay.
split.
And that's, yeah, Mr. Bremer. Mrs.
Did you
Bremer's
guys,
house.
did you
right,
guys get
right.
the picture?
And then.
Yeah, I see
The
that. I
musician?
didn't open it till
Come
just now.
over.
Opened it.
I'll make a
Someone
stop.
said she-
So do you have, to get a sidewalk, you need signatures?
Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah.
I got
There's one we
them.
don't have.
They just handed it to me.
Clarice Levy is on the corner of Fessenden and Broad Branch. She's 98 years old.
Okay.
She didn't want to join, she was afraid of having her snow removal responsibilities, and I told her children that I would be responsible for removing her.
Okay,
Fair.
okay, the petition is here, the signatures are here.
Okay.
I'll
And it
scan
sounds
this.
like it's in order.
Yeah, everything looks to be in order. I'll scan these in and I'll send it along with the, so the wording of the resolution, I can read it into the record if somebody needs me to.
I don't think you need
No?
to.
Nobody needs me to.
The one thing I just wanted to say is if we could, I mean, Officer Franchak has been just unbelievable. John, who owns the VP, has been really supportive and helpful. He was, they just put a sidewalk in there. And he has seen, I mean, he has seen how the traffic, I mean, because it's really 2 prongs. The sidewalks will help, the traffic. I mean, my daughter 2 weeks ago just so nearly got hit, and I see how, I wasn't with her, but I see how it was, because when you have to cross where the Linian sidewalk ends, you have no sight line, and they're coming up, it's this head of steam they get coming up Linian. And it's just really scary. And you want to have these kids who can sort of learn to be slightly independent in our scary city. And one way you can do it is by letting them walk to their neighborhood public school.
Linian is on your route
Yeah,
to
but
school?
how is
No,
Linian on your route?
I walk my daughter down to Linian and Broad Branch where she gets a bus. I have 2 sons who go to March. We walk up Fessenden across to March.
Okay.
So I have 2 drop-offs in the morning.
Okay.
So I go one way down and one way up.
So why are you not extending the sidewalk on Fessenden between 32nd and Linian?
We are.
You already got that?
That's in the south side.
Okay. That's what I
But
thought. There was
Yeah,
one
it's
on.
on-
This
it's on
ordinance
Spruce
that
Road.
allows us to put these sidewalks, so they put this sidewalk in, well, just last week at Linian, I think it's Broad Branch Terrace, or Linian
Yeah, it's on the
Terrace.
other side.
Right,
Yeah.
so the guy talked to the DR. He's like, oh, well, we can go up there tomorrow, you just get Mary J to call. It's so easy, all you need is Mary J to call. I said, I've written more emails to Mary J.
That is not true.
Well, right.
I'm sorry, that is not true.
So, but here's what I'm saying, like, here's all these people who didn't want this sidewalk. And there's all these sidewalks that are uncompleted in the neighborhood that stop mid-block. They're just building a brand new sidewalk on a street that isn't a major thoroughfare. Meanwhile, you've got these, Linian stopping mid-block, Fessenden stopping mid-block, another Fessenden stopping
Have you
mid-block.
talked to Marlene Berlin, who's the pedestrian advocate for our area? I mean, she's the one that, we have huge sidewalk studies done.
And Marlene Berlin
I mean, there are huge
I
areas
go to
within
people
our
do
area.
that. I've talked to, I don't know, I've talked to.
but I mean,
Well,
so
wait,
we're gonna
have
have
you
to
looked
bring
at
all
the
up.
study that they've done about where all the sidewalks are in our area? There's a huge study done on it.
How do we acquire it?
Yeah, where?
It's on the.
It's on the Forest Hills Connection. Yes, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think there's a huge amount of background work here that a lot of people have done.
Oh, like, I'm
Well,
not,
it might have.
not suggesting anyone hasn't worked on it before, I just wanna help.
That indeed, if that plan covers what we cover.
Yeah, I mean, this,
we are
one of the
redundant.
things we've tried to do is get people to put sidewalks in. I mean, number one, having one side at least.
Right.
Number two is going for two-sided, because we live in the city.
You happen to know, Sally, what it says about this particular neighborhood?
Yes, I'm pretty sure they have sidewalks going quite a few on these
And
streets.
that was done how many years ago?
Well, it's just been done over the last 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Who's the pedestrian ombudsman that we should contact?
It's Marlene Berlin, Berlin. She's the editor of the Forest Hills Connection.
Sure.
And if you go to the Forest Hills Connection and just put pedestrian sidewalks in, you'll get like, if I do it on my iPad right now, I'll get 10, 15.
Sorry.
And I read a little article when you put the one in on that continuation with the other part, 32nd between Davenport and Allen.
I don't mean to get off of this. This is great, you're doing this. I just feel like
Oh my God.
it needs to be expanded, because what you're saying is some of the study has been done
Well, we
all
better-
around you.
Well, and it's also sort of amazing if I've talked to people at DDOT, I've talked to Mary J's office, I've talked to people at Merck.
Yeah, that is amazing,
and no
because
one's told me, oh, well, it's already being done.
No, if it's been written and it hasn't been done, our next question is why.
well, it's been put in front of DDOT.
It's a recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
Right,
So-
and
To
so
DDOT.
doing this with all the signatures and a resolution from us doesn't
No, it
increase the
does.
pressure
I
a
mean,
little bit?
Definitely, but I'm
It's
just
just part
saying,
of it. Oh, no,
we
this
need to
does.
go
This
This is
further.
part of it.
It's just part of it. This is great.
Can we vote?
Okay, so
And
yeah,
also,
I
there's
mean,
like something to be said, you know.
We can talk
next-
offline.
No,
Let's
but
vote
next
about
June,
it.
you're gonna
Discuss
have
this
a
later.
huge renovation at Merch, which is gonna
Yep.
push a lot of cars and parking and stuff and increase the traffic.
But we don't know where those cars and everything is going, because of the swing space.
Well, I mean, I know.
So you're gonna have 2 years in there, we don't know what's going on.
I mean, I totally know, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's something to be said for trying, I mean, and they're gonna tear down the house, and that's gonna make a lot more construction, where you're not gonna be able to go around their dumpsters and whatnot to get up Pleasanton. So I just think it's something to be said for fast tracking it slightly, if it can be done, or
Okay.
advocated for.
Well, if
That's
it's,
the
if
intent.
it's in the budget, if they've got it in the budget
This
now,
is great.
it'll
We'll-
take
we'll,
about
read the
6
connection
months.
and,
Thank you.
Anything we can do to support your support. you know.
Okay.
I'll go get us some next, or tell me what to do.
Okay. Be
Is
happy
there
to
a
stop
motion?
by.
so let's,
And we'll look 'em up.
is there a motion?
Yeah, I'd
to-
like to make a motion
Yeah.
to pass a resolution
Okay.
to send a message to DDOT advocating for the construction of the sidewalks
Okay.
that are listed in the picture.
Cool.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, 7-0.
Before we jump off of that, let me go on and say a little bit, since we talked about traffic and walking, that historically, until about 5 or 10 years ago, the south crosswalk at Connecticut and Chester between the Shell Station and Forest Hills was closed and chained off and was not an accessible crosswalk. You had to cross on the north side of Fessenden to the bank building and then go south. What happens today is that a lot of people, they get to the corner, they're anxious to get on, so they cross on our side of Connecticut and then use that south crosswalk, meaning that all the traffic that wants to turn left gets piled up behind, waiting for an opportunity to turn left.
And then they race the light, which is really the
Right.
sad part. Which is
And
really
there
where
have
you
been
get the
several-
accidents.
Yeah, several accidents as a result. So if we just went back to closing the south crosswalk, because people are coming down the sidewalk on the north side of the street anyway, and could cross the north side crosswalk and turn onto Connecticut on the Merch side, then that would speed up traffic, it would ease the situation, it would, I would hope, stop some of the running of the clubs and so forth. It would make the officer's job easier also, who's been out there recently, thank goodness, to kind of keep track of things.
So, just so you know, that was open from an ANC resolution from Manoli.
How long ago do you remember?
2 year and a half, 2 years, not more than 2 years.
No, I don't.
And he did a study with all the neighbors there. And that's where they asked for that to be open.
I love
Do you remember this?
But I didn't think about that in
Okay.
the context of the turn.
No, I didn't either. I never talked about it with them.
But you all are further down the hill. I think maybe they
It's a different
didn't.
generation too. What you've seen in this region demographically, a whole new generation of young people with kids, which is attractive.
Which is great.
And it's wonderful. And I dare say if Manolis or Andrea or Sally, if any of you redid that discussion with the neighbors, they would say, yeah, it might be easier for us to cross over the south side of Fessenden, but we take our lives in our hands because people are really racing all night.
Well, just so you all know, there's a hawk signal coming at Ellicott. So hopefully that's going to do a little bit. The studies have proven that it makes it different on each side, which will be Davenport and Fessenden. We'll see, because I live on Davenport. But I don't know.
20 years ago, I was told by a car racing in my eye.
Okay, I have a
Davis, you have
suggestion.
a question?
Can
Sorry.
I get a list of the sidewalks in the picture, or a picture of the picture?
Yeah.
I can just forward it to you.
Yeah.
Can I email you?
It's in the resolution.
Can I get a copy of the resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah. you'll-
I'll forward it to you.
That's what he's
Yes,
talking
that's
about.
what he's
Yeah.
asking.
Do I do
Can I make a
Davis
friendly
dot Kennedy or
recommendation?
Davis D?
You may
What's your
not
email?
like my friendly recommendation.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
The friendly recommendation
All right.
is we go back into the resolutions, and actually Manoli has a PowerPoint that I think I have somewhere that he printed out.
I sent it
that has
to
this
you.
whole area as to what the whole no left
Okay.
turn, that whole deal that
So
we
I
talked
guess
about today.
I will let you guys figure out what you want to do, and
Well,
we
I'm
can bring
making
it
a
back at
suggestion.
another. We can bring it back another meeting because we have a ton more stuff to do. All right. So next,
So are we voting on that resolution?
We
then?
passed it.
Yeah, pass.
It passed.
Done.
So I'm
Done.
going to send it to DDOT.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So can I just ask a question? When we pass a resolution
Yeah.
like that, who is doing the final and signing it?
The
and writing
SMD
transmittal?
commissioner should send me the final document to sign. I will return it to you, and then you
That's what I've been doing.
disperse.
If it's
So
my
whoever it is.
Yes, but-
resolution, then I get it on the letterhead and I send it to Adam and he scans it and signs it and sends
Yeah.
it back. And I
And then
send it off
you
to DDOT.
email it
Yes,
to
but you
DDOT.
also need to
And everybody
all
else.
of us need to get a copy of
Yes.
these resolutions.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the
So
individual
Manoli, Melanie, you said is
SMD
yours.
commissioner is writing the transmittal letter and
settlement
putting,
agreement.
literally putting it in the mail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you've
That's what I've been
discussed
doing
with me
until now.
otherwise, but yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I just haven't seen some of these final.
Do you have a different thought about what should happen?
Yeah, I think Rachel should do it. I mean, we've got Rachel.
Doesn't matter to
And-
me.
Doesn't matter to me.
You know, it just seems like
As long as it's not me.
it would streamline the process.
Okay, we can discuss that.
Okay. I mean, we can talk about this later.
Okay.
but
Yeah,
I feel frustrated on some of these resolutions because I feel like they go into a black hole.
Yes, and we don't have a copy.
And there's nothing posted on the website to show the resolutions that are out there. So for example, I probably could not put my hands on Manoli's resolution.
Right. Hopefully,
The only way I
we'll
can is
rectify that
because
with
of
the
the-
new website.
Right.
There'll be archives going back as far as we can. But that's the idea. We should be able to
Thank you
access
guys
all
for
of
all
our
your work.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And
Thank
hopefully
you, everyone.
they will act on it, on the resolution.
Okay. So.
Just not for 6 months.
Yeah, probably. So next up at Hearst, there's a air conditioning unit on top of the new building, and they put screening around it that is technically overhyped. So it's already installed. they need to get a zoning.
Where was the architect on that?
I don't know. So,
and he's for merch. Oh my
so
god.
So they asked us to support it. I haven't really heard anything from anyone. It's there. No one even knew.
How much over height?
Anyone in the audience? Like 5 feet or something.
Less than 5 feet?
It's not that much.
It's on the roof?
Yeah. It's like screening around the air conditioner so you don't see a unit. You see like a fake wall.
So it's making the structure too tall, the building too tall.
Right.
Because
It's
not
over the
public.
zoning height.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I emailed neighbors. Everyone seemed more or less indifferent. So, and it's there already, and no one knew. So, I am inclined to just send a letter saying, well, we can do two things, I guess. We can either support it, or I'll just say we have no opinion whatsoever on it. But I guess I haven't heard anyone against it, so I'll just.
Has Hearst
What if they
actually
turn this
applied
down?
for a variance?
Yeah.
What if they turn this down? They're going to have to pull it down?
Yes.
Yes.
Just like that fence.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to support it because it's there, and
What does it look like?
I don't know. I haven't even gone over to look. I think it's like white.
Is the air conditioner that it's screening over height
I
too?
mean, since we don't know what it looks like, it's kind of.
I'd rather, I mean.
I'd rather see it.
Well, when is the BZA hearing?
Like in a week.
In a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you just get this?
Yep. I can pull
The
it up.
only thing I worry about is setting precedent of people not
Right.
doing something and then coming for approval later.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to make them tear it down, but I also, you know, if they can get along without our support for it, I wouldn't mind.
It's fine.
But it is, you know.
It's not going anywhere.
Okay.
The reality.
Sure.
They're not making them tear it down.
Then why are they making them go for the variance?
Just to paper it up.
Yeah.
Would you have supported it if it had been, if they had applied for the variance before?
Well, we would have seen it with
the deafening
it would have gone
opposition
for a
I'm hearing
special
right now.
variance.
Yeah. Special exception. actually.
Special
Right, it's not a
exception,
variance.
sorry, special exception. So we would have seen what was being done.
Yeah. My view on this sort of thing is, I'm not going to judge it on the aesthetics. If nobody in the area that would be directly affected by it is complaining, I don't see why we should worry about it.
Yeah, no
That was my
one's.
view.
Will they
no
see it
one's
when the
says-
leaves are down off the trees?
They're not there now.
The leaves are all gone now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they cleared the whole hill and gone over. There's really nothing
They
there.
cleared it all?
I mean, there's trees.
There's
A
what
couple,
trees?
Couple trees.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. There were trees
Yeah.
left.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just make a motion to support it. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of such motion?
Aye.
I abstain.
Sounds good. So one abstention. Next, Muriel Bowser has made a pledge to stop homelessness. So I would like to stop homelessness in Van Ness and DC.
You put this last just to screw with Mike, right?
That's right.
Poor Mike. We're sorry, Mike.
Do you get overtime for sitting here?
No.
No.
But you guys don't either.
Good answer.
Yeah, we do.
Good answer.
He's getting paid more than we
We
are.
get time and a half on our zero pay.
Yeah.
So I'm making a resolution to support the pledge. So effectively, there's a pledge that the mayor is circulating, which is effectively what this resolution is. So I'll read it, since no one's seen it until the
I
second.
think we went over it last meeting.
Is this
Yeah.
the same thing you
Oh, is
shared
this the
with
same
us
one?
before?
I did.
Yeah,
The one I
it was-
believe was last
You
month.
read it to us
Last September.
Yeah, and you handed out
Questions about it. I
copies.
know
Oh, here it is.
initially was a little, if I may just real quick, I know initially it was a little bit like, what is this? Do I have to personally stop homelessness? That, it's not that. It's a general approach to stop recurring homelessness, to shut down DC general. In the 2015, the end of this year, obviously, we plan to not have any more veterans on the streets, homeless veterans, and we're on track to do so. And you see there, 2020, it's policy prescription. It's just saying, hey, let's all do this together. And this is going on all 8 boards as well. Every ANC is seeing this in October and September. Like you guys see.
Okay, so this is the resolution, which is effectively that pledge, and make a motion to approve this resolution. All in favor?
Wait.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The thing that says make shelter available to families when they need it, and I'm remembering Prop 19 days, and that was a huge fiasco. It brought huge numbers of homeless population to the district. What's different here?
So, you know, to be honest with you, I'm not going to go back and speak about Prop 19, but what I will say about this is a family-based shelter system that decentralizes it from DC County. And, you know, this is not, we're revamping the way Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services considers emergency situations. And when we take folks in, so as you know, a lot of times it is during hypothermic situations. When we typically bring a bunch of folks in and then we decide to put them back out after it hits above 40 degrees. Folks who have degrees that I don't have and that are a little bit higher of a pay scale than myself determining exactly how we're doing that.
It says not only during hypothermia.
Right, exactly. So not just during hypothermic situations when we're going to admit families in these shelters. And again, it varies from shelter to shelter, and this is kind of where my expertise on it actually stops, my lack thereof, really. But they're kind of determining how it's going to be done right now. So again, it's not specifics within the shelter. It just says, hey, that this is going to be what we're doing.
How are you going to prevent people from Virginia who help with nothing supporting this? All the homeless people from Virginia coming to the district and then we having to pay for it. More people from Maryland.
I'm sorry, sir, was that directed to me?
Well, it's directed to somebody. I guess you.
Say it again, Davis.
Well, how are you going to prevent? I'm homeless. I've lived in Virginia the whole life. And then I see this, so I come to the district and let the district taxpayers pay for me, rather than the Virginia taxpayers.
Arlington just opened a state-of-the-art homeless facility.
Well,
So I don't think they're going to leave. I think that's going to be the big draw now.
Yeah, respectfully, you know, again, to be honest, sir, I'm not sure I should be speaking straight to the current about policy specifics that are better addressed through the Deputy Mayor of Health and Human Services. But I would say, yes, you know, Arlington is doing their thing. I can't speak to what happened in the Commonwealth of Virginia. All I can say is I'm sure that there's a way they're figuring out how to do this for the homeless population inside the district. That's all I can really say about that. But I don't know the exact way that's being done. Again, I wish I could go into a lengthy point-by-point discussion on every little aspect of this, but I just don't have it.
If you could ask somebody who answer that question, if you could, say how to prevent people from Virginia or Maryland coming into the district.
And you feel that that's the main concern you have about
Yes.
the plan? Okay.
I mean, when you talk to the homeless people, I mean, we do quite a bit of volunteer work with the homeless people. They're from all over. They're from Russia. They're from Central and South America, California. I served a guy from Hawaii, you know, last week. I mean, they're from all over. It's not just
But
Virginia and Maryland.
It's essentially a very similar question to mine. What happened before was DC, because of the policies, became a magnet for people, homeless people, to come and
because they were more
from
open.
up and down the whole East Coast. People came to DC because of this, housing on demand thing. And so it's a similar question. What's different now that's not going to set this kind of precedent?
I'm sorry that I did a horrible job at trying to answer that to begin with, Commissioner. Hopefully I do a little bit better at stating that, emphasizing that this is again, the capacity is not this overarching huge capacity where it's going to attract folks from outside of the district. This is taking care of the situation that we have right now. So it's not like this is a people are going to hear all over the place that there's these great, huge, big shelters that are taking in and turning out tons of folks. This is, again, in the redesignating of the emergency status for these folks. We are simply doing our best to provide them the resources when they're in there to make sure they don't come back in, hitting the recurring part of it. So this isn't a DC general in each of the 8 wards. It's not these massive structures. They're small, decentralized structures. And I say small very loosely because I don't know the exact size.
Are they new? Or are they going in buildings?
So that's, again, that's
Vacant
being
building.
determined through the deputy mayor's office.
I think each of the things listed in here is a laudable goal and something that I would certainly support. And then figure out how to determine who's eligible for these things, that's fine. But I don't think that precludes making it a goal to make shelter available to families, homeless families, when they need it, for example.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Please.
So I generally agree with what you said, but the last item here I do have a question about. I have read a little bit about this issue, and I'm wondering if that last bullet actually, even though it's stated generally, actually is intended to sort of implicitly indicate support for a policy change that the mayor's office is advocating that's controversial, which, as I understand it, is essentially relaxing the requirements for a space that would be given to such a family to have fewer requirements. So in other words, moving in favor of allowing just a room as opposed to some of the features of an apartment that might make it more livable. Is that accurate, that that is something that the mayor's office is trying to do in order to facilitate capacity building to do this?
I'm sorry. I'm getting there at 10 o'clock just like you all are, and you think at a much faster pace than I am right now, but are you saying that you believe there's an implication that we're relaxing the standards by which we admit folks for this?
So my question is,
which bullet are you using?
So this is,
which bullet are you talking about?
Clarify emergency housing configuration as apartment style or a private room. I'm
Okay,
kind
so
of
that's
asking what that means.
That's on your resolution, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah. So, because the comment was made that most of these are just supports for general principles that are laudable and general and policy details to be hashed out.
I'm sorry.
And
It's not on the pledge, why is it on the resolution?
Oh, I don't, is that not on the pledge? Someone.
Where did this come
Can we get rid of it?
Someone
I mean,
gave it
what
to me,
is-
told me it was in the pledge.
Who wrote this? This is,
Some other ANC wrote it.
okay. So you gave this to us, right?
No.
No, I
No, no, no.
Because this was
Some other
gave
ANC.
that.
No, the resolution.
Do you have the pledge there?
Who gave us the
Can I see
resolution?
Who
Adam,
did
this wasn't you? The
who
resolution?
did the resolution?
ANC 1C
Oh,
passed
okay.
this resolution, and I said, for simplicity purposes, I will reuse it.
Oh,
If I
okay.
could
But,
just-
can I, Mike, can I see that?
Yeah, let's hand this back out here. If you have particular problems with certain bullet points that for some reason I didn't have in front of me, thank you. We can also kind of talk about a general, as you'll see
Yeah,
here.
this you gave us last week, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's
right.
what
So
I
this
remember
is-
from this.
this
is what
is-
I remember.
And that's not a
Yeah.
problem either, that's great, but that's a little bit
Right,
more
this is what I remember.
policy related, and it talks about a couple things again that I'm not privy to be honest with you. And I dropped the other one somewhere. Oh, thank you.
This mentioned the private room thing too, but you know.
It does.
I think that's, I
Yeah,
mean,
it does.
it's probably
Well,
okay. I mean, I just was
I'm
trying
sorry.
to.
But wait,
move
it
us
doesn't
away
have
from-
apartment though. This one has apartment.
Right.
I gave it to him. He wants it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can give it back. So your problem was clarified emergency housing configuration as apartment style or a private room.
Well, my question was really about, I mean, I have read that this is an issue that the mayor's office has taken a stance on as part of this policy, right? So, as a general matter, there are current requirements for what kind of space you can use to house families on an emergency basis, like what that space has to have in it, right?
And this gets to the crux of every ANC issue or discussion, to be honest with you. It really does. And this bullet point right here is something, again, I can't really speak to. I don't know clarify emergency housing configuration as apartment style or private room. I don't know what's going to happen in Ward 3 with that. I don't know what's going to happen in Ward 8. I don't know how they're going to be configured. I don't know what the standards are, what the requirements are. I really don't. I do know that folks have had issues with the way it's been done at DC General. That's been one of the big things, is the configuration of the housing there and the fact that the restrooms and the common areas are very communal. And so that a lot of that thought comes down to this plan. But again, the final bullet point here is something that.
So fine. So could I make just a new resolution that effectively is ANC 3F supports the district's bold effort to end homelessness. Far too many men, women, and children live in our streets and shelters. Together, we will end homelessness for veterans by 2015. ANC supports these 5 bullets on this thing and
On this thing.
Yeah, on this.
thing. Okay.
This
Fine.
thing is more restrictive than 1C. 1C is just asking for a clarification, whereas this is actually making a policy statement that it should be private rooms.
Well, I think that, frankly, I think this is implicitly saying the same thing. I don't know that much about this, and I know that you are also not. This isn't like your policy area of expertise. My main concern was just making sure that we weren't signing on to endorse a specific policy proposal
I think
that we
this
haven't considered.
this would. I think this doesn't, because the question is, should it be apartment style or private room? There was a hearing last week, I think, where that was a big issue. And so the way I read this says to me that's still an open question, and
No,
the
that's
mayor
not how I'm
needs
reading this. I'm reading that they
needs to
believe
clarify.
this is how it should be clarified. Like, it's like clarified. in-
apartments.
Clarify emergency.
It is more general than this, though. This very explicitly.
This is very-
endorses-
I mean, they're both-
and that might be the right thing. I actually don't know. I'm just saying, if this is a contentious issue in the city, do we want to take a position on a specific policy stance that's
No,
being
this is
debated
asking,
without knowing
clarify
that much about it?
emergency housing
But
configuration.
I'm persuaded by what you said, which is that this very
Either
clearly
or.
is
Either
a
or.
stance, and this is something we're talking about, and we need to
But
believe
this
it
is
should be
not.
talked about.
This is
Clarified.
saying-
That's how I read it, but Pat's
Yes.
reading it differently, so maybe it,
Dignified private room or
Yeah,
emergency
the way I'm
housing.
reading this is with the resolution from the other ANC,
1B.
that they're firmly stating that emergency housing configuration should be clarified throughout the
Right.
city as being apartment
Which
style
I think is better.
or
Or a
private
private
room.
room.
No,
Well, those are the two.
clarified
I
in the
think those are the two.
I guess strike the word clarified. They're not using it as saying that it should be questioned or it needs to be clarified. They're saying it should be defined as that. That's how I'm reading it.
Well, no, I think these are the
emergency,
two.
Yeah.
what it
These are
is
the
that
two.
needs.
They're saying it needs to be clarified, and this is how it should be. Is
I
how
don't-
I'm reading. I don't.
no, because
I'm
there's
sorry, I think it's saying
a choice there. A
whoever-
private
You're
room
right.
means
Clarify
you
that.
have a room, but you share a bathroom with everyone else. Apartment style means you have a private bathroom. And the mayor wants to move towards the private rooms because you can get more people into
Mhm.
shelter if they all share a bathroom.
Okay.
And the homeless advocates want to move to the apartment style
Apartment
because
style.
it's more dignified.
Right.
So
I see.
that's a policy debate that's going on right now.
Okay.
And so I think what this is saying is, we support that somebody has to clarify that, but I don't think this is taking a
Can we,
position.
can we
I
rephrase
understand.
this
You're
then?
right.
I
Can we
think
rephrase
you're
that
right.
last
And now that
thing,
we've kind of talked
Malachi?
it through, it is late. It
Can we
takes
make
a few
it
more
clear
minutes, but-
that that's what we mean and rephrase that
Yeah,
last bit?
we
that
can write
says,
whatever we want in our.
Clarify whether emergency housing configuration should be apartment style or private.
Yeah,
room.
that's good.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Clarify whether emergency housing configuration should
be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This or that.
So you good otherwise?
Yeah, I think the rest of it's sufficiently general that we're not endorsing a specific policy. This needs to
So
be,
fine.
yes.
This with
Yeah.
that clarification, is there a
Okay.
second?
Second.
All in favor? Everyone vote, all in favor? All opposed? Abstain?
I'm in favor.
Andrea
That's fine, okay. So one abstention. All right, so next up, so DDOT, on 39th, that's the road that goes kind of like between VZ and Van Ness, behind Cava and Nando's, up to,
This goes back beside the P.F. Hoffman.
I mean,
Is that what the picture's showing? Or the picture is
no,
an
that's an
example?
example of what this looks like.
Okay.
Well, we are specifically talking between Albemarle and Van Ness on 39th, which is one way and northbound. They want to add what's called a contraflow bike lane, which is a bike lane that allows bikes to go southbound without going into northbound lane and getting hit by cars.
Yes, it's
So-
a separate lane.
So it's safer?
Yeah.
And it's got a double line, like
Yeah,
this
it
picture
has a line,
showing.
the parking doesn't
But the
change.
parking is
No change.
against it.
Where is this?
But the parking is
39th
against it.
Street between.
So you know
Okay.
Cava
Here, you
and
know
Nando's?
where they put the new, where Armand's is, used to be, Armand's?
It's right behind there.
Yeah.
It's
There.
that street that comes
Do
out
you want to see
off
this
of.
picture, Pat?
That's what it looks
Well,
like.
this
That's
is,
not
that's what
where
it looks
is.
like.
That's
Okay,
what it
this
looks
is
like.
where it is.
So this whole street from Albemarle to
Yeah.
Wisconsin, essentially, very nice.
So
Yeah.
it's safer than, and what's the alternative? Is just
On
not having a lane?
39th
They
between
bike in the
39.
wrong direction down a full lane of
39,
traffic.
39.
And they're gonna do it anyway.
Yes.
Right
So
here.
that makes
It's,
sense. Okay.
this is that building coming off of Wisconsin, and that's
Yes.
where Armand's used to be, now it's Penny
Oh,
Penny or
there.
whatever.
Yes, Nando's.
A- Apex and everything is over here, the
Yep.
flank place, Sullivan's. This is the vacant little park with the, bike share.
Yep.
Bikes.
Yeah.
So they're putting it on the west side, or they're putting it on the east side?
It doesn't matter because it's
Doesn't
one way.
matter, but
So are they
it's one
taking
way.
away any parking?
No.
Will they be putting it on the east side if it's contraflow going south? Right?
No, because it's one way, so
It's
they
one
could be on
way.
either
The
side.
street goes-
Thus the need for
the
it, because
street
people are
goes
biking on it
this
already,
way.
counter to
Goes
traffic with
north.
one lane.
Yeah.
So they're putting it south. My question is, are they putting it on the west side
It is,
or the east side?
the lane occupies 5 feet to the west side of the parking.
That's what I figured,
Okay.
west side. Okay, this side,
This would narrow
This
the
side.
northbound travel lane slightly.
not this side. So it's where the businesses are versus more where the houses are.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
some houses right there,
Yeah,
but not
yeah,
many.
yeah.
Like-
So,
So they're doing
It's
the
only
whole
one block,
street,
you
or
know.
they're only doing?
yeah, it's like one block in
It's
ours.
from
It's
Van
one
Ness to
block.
Albemarle.
Yeah.
That's a
So what is this?
So why are they only doing one block?
Albemarle.
It's more than one block.
No,
Van
it's
Ness.
one block in
Van
our,
Ness to
in our ANC. It goes all the way up to Albemarle. But that's,
It's
That's not right.
Van-Ness to Albemarle.
Yep.
Okay,
You're over one road.
One
Go
block-
left,
go
go
one
left
block
back.
west.
So none of it's in our ANC except for one little strip on the other
I
side of
got
Cava.
it. So that's all in this one strip.
Yeah.
But-
So that's
but
north.
Technically, we're on the east, we're in the middle of the road.
Yes.
Technically.
Yeah.
So they're just doing it as a courtesy.
I guess. Yeah.
so it says it's gonna be on the west of the park, to the west of the parking. So it's actually gonna be on the east side of the street, west of the parking, which is on the east side.
Wait a minute, what did it say?
Oh, so it's the east side of the street, but west of the parking, so the parking is still here, and then there's the lane. So it's east side of the street.
That's how I would
Right.
read that.
The east side of 39.
East
Does it
side,
really matter?
39th,
East
west
No, it
of the
doesn't.
parking.
Who cares?
Oh,
What side?
God
It
knows
seems to
why
matter.
why-
It doesn't
how did
matter.
they-
It
How
doesn't-
did they pick one side or the other, is my question.
It doesn't matter because it's a
Actually,
one-way
it
street.
does say, it says, this will ensure they're going.
But I think there's a reason they do it because of the turns, of when cars turn, et cetera.
This
Is there-
this is to
From my
encourage
understanding,
bicyclists to
it's
ride
the-
on the right side of the road. Wrong way riding is against the law.
Is there a motion?
Yeah. So motion to support this.
Yes,
lane.
second.
All in favor?
Did they support it? I assume. Did the other
I have no
ANC
idea.
support
I
it?
assume so. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is it confident that they can go both directions?
No, Contra's the other way.
Against traffic.
Against.
Or it's just against traffic?
Yeah. It's a special lane against traffic, and then if you're biking with traffic, you just bike in the lane.
In the regular
cars go.
traffic lane.
Okay. Malachi, financial stuff.
Okay.
I have a resolution real quick. I don't know if I need to read it.
For what?
The one I handed you on the.
Oh, we didn't get it on the
So-
agenda.
Yeah, and I have one more quick motion.
You didn't make it
Sorry.
put on the agenda.
What's your motion?
Oh, we didn't hear you.
What is it?
This one.
Resolution.
The
Yeah, it's
Soapstone.
just a follow-up
Yeah,
resolution.
you're at the end.
Oh, at the very end?
Yeah.
After, okay,
Yeah,
I thought we were
sorry,
doing all the
sorry.
resolutions.
Sorry. No, it doesn't matter. We're still
Okay.
doing resolutions. Doesn't
I'll
matter.
be after miscellaneous.
Yeah, you're good. I got you.
All right.
All right, so financial stuff.
Okay, financial stuff. As of today, we have $123,083 in our bank account. And that's our financial update. That's it. And then,
What about all this? All the stuff we've been talking about. Go ahead.
That's our budget.
Okay.
Our FY16 budget. So I sent everybody the proposed budget. We had conversation about increasing the amount that we take out of savings over the coming year. So what I budgeted now, if you look at the budget that I gave to everybody, you'll see line D under receipts, transfer from savings, $25,000.
People didn't give me. Do you have an extra copy? I didn't get anything.
Yeah, I passed them all out.
Well, you can share. I'm sorry, it's not in my stash. You're gonna pause it. Go ahead.
Okay, so the way the budget is set up, based on our actual spending in FY15, we set estimates for what we would spend in each of these categories for 16. That basically balances out using our district allotment, and then for grants, we're going to use our savings account. We're going to draw down our savings account. Now, we can move things within budget categories. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this at least gives us an idea that our regular, ordinary operations basically cost us about $15,000, which is what the district gives us, and then the stuff that we do above and beyond sort of our normal stuff is what we'll be drawing down our savings from. So $123,000 in savings now. We're planning to spend $25,000 of that over the coming year. Okay, and the attachments then, the subsequent pages just show you everything that we spent by budget category, in case you're interested, over FY15. And that's it. So I'll make a motion to approve the FY16 budget.
Second. All in favor? Sally, you can vote. Okay. Thank you. Approved.
Thank you, Melanie, for doing this.
Yeah.
Very good. September minutes.
So there's two sets of minutes from September.
2 sets of minutes.
Right? One is from the regular meeting and the other is from the other official meeting that we had
Yes.
4 days later.
Okay.
You sent us.
That's the one I sent. The other one I don't have yet because we had a little schedule snafu with when I got them. So I don't have it ready yet.
Sorry, which one's not ready?
The main
The
one
main
she
one.
doesn't have.
Okay.
She
The
has-
little one is
The little
ready.
one is attached.
The little one I sent.
No, not yet.
So you want to just approve
Well, it will
We'll just
be ready.
reconsider it
I need it.
next meeting.
Yes, it will for
Okay,
sure.
Okay, so we have minutes for the special meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so fine, motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Patrick?
So, at the last meeting, we established a committee to deal with Soapstone Valley and Melvin Hayes and the parks and trails within them. We had our first meeting this last week. There's some housekeeping that needs to be done. Basically, by our bylaws, we have to have a record of every one of the individuals who are the formal voting members of the committee. They're listed within the resolution. Also, we've decided to add an extra comma within the name, so it should now be known as the Soapstone Valley, Melvin Hazen, Parks and Trails Committee. And we came up with a missions, basically a purpose statement, a list of bullets. We'll be coming up with a mission statement in the future, but for now, I just want to, I'll read these real quickly, and then we can vote on the resolution. But be it resolved that the purpose of the Soapstone Valley, Melvin Hazen Parks and Trails Committee shall be to research and establish facts relating to public projects in and affecting the Soapstone Valley and Melvin Hazen Parks, coordinated with all relevant agencies, nonprofits, businesses, and the community to preserve the natural beauty and ecological health of our forests and creeks, maintain and enhance public access by the community to parks and trails, including during public project work, confer with experts at our discretion, and communicate and engage with the ANC 3F community and others as appropriate. I'd like to make a motion to consider this resolution.
Second. Any questions?
Do you need a budget for this?
We We'll likely need some budget items. I'm not prepared to give you a specific amount or what it'll go for right now, so I have no problem in just submitting special requests for this first year. And if we can use that as a baseline for budget in the future, I think that that'll be a good process.
All right. All in favor? 700. Anything else that I forgot? No? All right.
Oh, wait, no, I have just a quick motion.
Go.
Over the last couple of months, we've gotten a number of requests for some way to help people hear us in the room. So I've done a little research, and so I want to make a motion to spend up to $200 for some sort of speaker.
Well, there is one.
We have one already.
No, but we can't. What I want to do is I want to plug something into these microphones because we never hand this thing around to everybody who's talking. So if we get something that we can plug into our microphones and that will be plugged into that, and it will be a speaker in the room, every single meeting somebody asks, can you speak into the microphones? And we always say, no, the microphones aren't for the room,
Well,
the microphones
yeah,
are just
they
for
do
the
say
internet. Why don't we make these microphones for the room too, since we have lots of people who have trouble hearing us?
Is there where we can combine that with, they're very nice to us here. They let us use this room for free for these and everything else, a larger, or maybe not even larger, but to confer with any amplification devices they might need for this room.
They have, they just have the wireless.
They have the wireless. But
They got rid of the, but they have something with the TV. They have a whole bunch of stuff with the TV.
Maybe we can figure it out. I'm not sure how to do
And
it exactly.
there's speakers up here.
So it'd be plugging.
Because they have the people have hearing problems at their meetings.
So we're just looking for a way to hook into the speakers?
Yeah.
I see one.
That's
Is there
fine,
another
yeah.
one?
It's there and there.
We could talk to them and figure it out.
Okay.
Okay.
You can ask Shirley. We can ask Shirley.
That's fine.
Okay.
If there's a way
She
to...
always asks us if we want that every time I
Right, and
talk to her
that's
about
great
the
if we
room
ever used
setup.
it, but I've been on the commission 2 years and I've never seen anyone use that.
Well, I've done it a couple times for
There's probably
meetings,
some
but
splitter that we can put in like that main feed.
Exactly. If we put a splitter in that we could then plug in, either buy a speaker that we can just put over here somewhere, or if we can plug into something that exists already, that's fine.
Okay.
It's a good
That's a
idea.
good expenditure. Yeah,
So,
I go with that.
can that be done, Adam, with this system?
Figure it out.
Okay.
Well, you've done some research, right? So you found some viable options that could work.
well, I described what I wanted to do, and the guy said, "What?"
Super simple. We can figure
He
it
said,
out.
"What equipment do you have?" And I said, "I don't know." So I just took pictures of what we have, and I'll show him the pictures and let him figure it out.
There must be a way.
He said it's-
Yeah, we
I've been working with the
have
developers.
to figure out
They
feedback. That's really
have
the
been
issue.
ironing some things out with their scope of work.
We can figure it out.
Well, that's why I thought if we put a speaker in the back, people who have trouble hearing could sit close to the speaker.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I think.
Okay.
Can I make a request?
So
that,
wait, I had a
So,
motion on
hold
the table. Am I
I'll
withdrawing that?
second it. I'll second it.
Okay.
So all in favor of this $200?
$200.
Exploration.
Aye.
Okay. Sorry, you have a motion
Can
or
I
something?
make a friendly I don't know, reminder? Because we've talked about this before. I know you haven't because you're new. And I know you don't like to do it because it's paper. But everyone should, if you have a resolution or you have something that you need to share, please bring a copy for every commissioner.
Yeah.
Okay? Just.
Really?
So-
Do we really have to generate that much paper?
Yes.
No, I'm serious.
Yes.
What are we gonna do with all this paper?
Then Rachel, will you make copies of the minutes of the meeting? I'm making a zillion copies on my stuff that I'm paying for.
Well, I mean,
Okay,
It's not,
so-
it's not an issue of the expense of making the
We
copies.
don't
Rachel
have
paid for
access
it.
to these documents when in this room. So.
if it's sent out a week ahead of time, then it's different, you know? I mean, if you send it a week ahead of time, then I don't need a paper copy. But especially for the things that come in, 2 hours before the meeting or 10
Yeah,
minutes
that's why I
before the meeting.
printed them because no one's
Yeah.
seen it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Actually, I do think you should print or ask the people when you're doing resolutions, you bring the resolution. I mean, because we make comments on it.
Could there also be a copy for the press?
Well, here's my stuff for you. I break it every time for you.
I surrender.
Okay.
I mean, I'm really serious. It's,
I make 15 copies of everything, and I put half of them out
Yeah,
there and half
I
of them
make-
here.
Copies of whatever
copies
is
every
actually
time.
done. I gave everyone copies of mine, or the ones that have been drafted
I
prior
know.
to this.
I'm just saying, we need to do it as a group,
That's
not
fine.
just.
That's fine. Okay, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Yay.
Yay. At least,
Um,
it-
can we also-
almost 11 o'clock? That first one was